So my family owned a number of income properties, and we were looking to shift up the portfolio, sell some, buy some others. And I said, okay, I'll become a real estate agent. It's easy. They make too much money anyway. I'll just do it myself. So that was 13 years ago. I joined Right at Home because I was concerned about paying as little commission as possible. I didn't want to, that they just have a flat rate fee. And I thought, what's the big deal? I'm pretty smart. So I did that. We bought and sold some properties. And then I said, I kind of enjoy this. Let me see if I can keep doing this real estate. And I didn't know what I was doing. So, I'd get a listing presentation, but I'd go to the listing presentation. I wouldn't get it. And afterwards I said, shoot, I forgot about marketing. I didn't talk about that at all. Like I was trying to reinvent the wheel. So after a couple of years at Right at Home, I was looking for a place that had better training, sort of more experienced agents. Like most of the discount brokerages, Right at Home is focused on providing the back end support, but it's really like a volume game for them. They're not like, it's not any one individual agent. They just have a lot of them. So I met an agent here at the brokerage, Julie Hughes, and she said, what are you doing right at home? I said, that's a great question. She said, you should come to some classes. So I came to some classes, and from there I ended up joining the brokerage, and that was at the end of 2012. So January 1st, 2013 was sort of when I started here. So coming up on just over 10 years here at the brokerage. I got my broker designation probably 3 or 4 years ago, actually more. You know how COVID, we've kind of slipped over that COVID. That was probably like 5 or 6 years ago I got my broker designation. During COVID, I was the broker of record here. So the role that Candace has, I did that for a year and a bit with Candace as the alternate before I stepped back to keep focusing on real estate. And yeah, I've been working ever since. So I have a team, which is tiny, maybe growing in the future, but it's just myself and Kirsten Roloff right now. We work, the way we do our business, the way we lead gen is through database in our sphere. So coming from contribution, write articles every Friday that get sent out to the database, send out mailings, some of which I'm just noticing are being returned to sender. But stay in touch with people that I know so that when they need someone, they or friends or colleagues need someone that they trust in real estate, that I'm sort of top of mind, or Kirsten's top of mind. What else? Background. So I'm an undergrad in sociology from McMaster, and I did my MBA at U of T. I get into stats a fair bit, but I also think it's really important to get into the mindset, which is why this class is particularly interesting to me. There we go. There it is in a nutshell. Come on in. Hello. How you doing?
Hi.
Good, good. Can I get your background?
Sure. My name's Frida Roberts, and I officially have signed on since Monday, but I've been around since the spring.
Okay.
In and out, Ignite, and other stuff going on.
Good for you.
My background is in commercial real estate. I actually started in '91 in commercial real estate.
Okay.
On the retail side of things, and in and out. The last job I had in commercial real estate was project manager for doing tenant construction.
Do you have like a PMP designation, or
no?
Just
started in a company that was 35 people, and by the time I left, it was 700 people. So okay, wow. opportunity, right? So
it was it Rita?
Frida.
Frida. Okay.
Yeah. And during that time, I got my license. So I've had my license since 2007, but I have had it parked for 16 years.
Okay.
Again, with a small independent guy who was very helpful when we were doing our own deals, buying and selling, helping family buy investment properties, my in-laws downsizing and things like that.
Yep.
But they didn't have the support and the people that I needed. I was going to go back before COVID. COVID hit. So as I stayed home with my kids for a while, while still having my license, keeping it up with RICO, but I was not registered with TREB. So I'm trying to register with TREB now, because there isn't a point. The fees are crazy if you're not making any money. And so that pretty much is my background. And then so after I was going to go full time before COVID. Then COVID hit, and then it's time.
Good
to get going.
That's exciting.
So
an overnight success, 16, 20 years in the making. That's great.
I don't know what overnight success, but
Well, congratulations. I mean, this is Keller Williams. I'm biased, but it's got a lot of value in terms of like you can teach and learn, because it's not so much how to fill out a form. That's
no,
easy enough.
filling out forms, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Because that was in 2006. That was or 2007. That's how you did everything, by hand, right? And then we got all this technology now over the years that has changed everything.
Yep.
But I think the basic of real estate is still there. Just you have to know the ins and outs of technology, right? But I was going to say something. Anyways, I was going to add something to today,
You can throw it in later.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it was the training and the people that I try to go back to my broker's office. There's no one around.
Yep.
And after COVID and being home with my kids, I need people. I need
Yep.
systems already in place rather than reinvent the wheel, like you
Yeah.
said.
Well, and this can be a very lonely business. Even if you have like a supportive spouse or family members, it can be lonely, and there can be some bad beats where you're like, can't believe someone treated me that way, or I didn't get that deal, or whatever it is. So it is helpful to have colleagues, actually people who are like, oh my God, yes, even if they're just there to commiserate. So
Yeah, that's not just a Facebook
Yeah.
group.
exactly. Yeah. Wonderful.
And Julie and Doug were my old neighbors.
Oh, good in town.
Yeah, they
Okay.
lived around the corners from me. So when I saw them at night, they're like, wow, you're now joined.
That's great. That's great.
They were bugging me before because I sold both of our houses in our neighborhood under my other broker. They're like,
There we go. Talking to Julie.
Yeah.
Awesome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to see you.
Do you want to give us a quick 30-second sort of background so that the rest of your group knows sort of where you're coming from?
Sure, yeah. So I started real estate last year, and I just finished like a year. Before that, I was doing interpretation. My background is I used to be a pharmacist. I'm a pharmacist, but I didn't pursue the career in Canada. I decided I'm gonna go for real estate, and so far, that's all. Not too much to say.
That's good. You can give it informal advice on how to medicate when people are depressed. That's good. Thank you, Rocco.
I started off in architecture, and then I became a contractor. And as I was growing, I got a lot of work until I did one particular job that put me out of business. I worked with very many really good builders in the city, and then I became a real estate agent. I worked very, very hard, 10 years, but then it started this new thing. This new computers, and you're not allowed to call this, you're not allowed to tell that. And someone just recommended the way I presented. They said I'd be better as a real estate appraiser. And I didn't know what a real estate appraiser was at that time. And now I'm back as a selling real estate. And I came into the motivation to learn. We can learn it a lot. So it's really good.
Good. Yeah, it can be something like you're drinking from a fire hose. Like it can be a little overwhelming. So Ignite and Bold and all these courses and that. So I will encourage you if at a certain point you need to sort of take a breath and let some of it settle, do so, right? I mean, like, because it's only working if you're taking everything in. Of course, that's after this course. Now you pay attention here. So let me get into it now. We've got a few people online as well, so try and go through the material relatively quickly. But I might deviate a little bit as we go through, just on stuff that I think is going to be sort of useful to you. So today we're doing two strategies, right? So get to the table, lead conversion, and follow up. That's the first one. So to remind you guys once again, so this is all based on the book Shift, right, which is written by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan. I should have brought a picture of me with Jay at family reunion where it was like 1 a.m. and I grabbed him as he was going past the bar, and I was like, Jay, let's take a picture. And he's like, okay, buddy. So that was published in 2009, right? And there were 12 tactics there, and they sort of repackaged this into sort of, those are all still relevant, but these are sort of the 6 sort of sessions that they think these are the things that we need to focus on now. So we're going to cover how to maximize the leads you generate by turning them into signed agreements. That's kind of the goal for today. I will not review the Telephone Consumer Protection Act because I believe that it's based in the States. And I have to remind myself to make sure There we go. So get to the table lead conversion. Then we're also going to cover the help buyers and sellers adjust and reset their expectations. Get to the table. There we go. Quote from our good friend Gary. I say our good friend. I've not met him in person. You guys know Dan Campanella, who's in the office?
Yeah.
So Dan, as a result of having some banner years, he's gone down to Austin for masterminds with like 100 people, but still 100 people masterminds with Gary Keller. So and he gets to even go on like these like private calls, like invite only calls. He just got invited to a session at Gary's ranch for $10,000. It's very interesting when you start to achieve at sort of high levels. The Keller Williams infrastructure starts to be like, you're someone that we want to keep moving, and it is quite exciting. So if you get a chance to talk to Dan about what it's like, it's fascinating. So, the quote from Gary is, "Leads don't matter if they don't turn into business." Does that resonate with any of you guys? Have you had a lead that made you feel good and you say, I'm a real estate agent, and then a little bit later you're like, I have no money, right? Have any of you had challenges with converting leads into business?
I can relate to that. I have some projects that I'm working, but it is kind of like I don't want to be pushy. That's the thing I need to learn.
Yeah.
It has to be their decision, but it is like, for the seller side, they say, I want this amount of money, and I'm not gonna get that right now.
Right.
So I will just hold on to it. There are some objections that I really feel like I shouldn't push.
Yeah. It is hard, and there's one of these quotes is whether you think you can or you can't, you're right, like like how you approach it. So and a big part, it all depends on personality for yourself as well as for the leads or the clients that you're dealing with. However, for myself, a big part of it has been understanding that it's not being pushy if you're helping them get out of their own way, and if you're helping them get what they want. So like if someone's about to step into traffic and you grab their arm, hey, don't touch me, and you're like you just almost died, right? So if there are sellers or buyers who are making poor decisions because their uncle, their friend, their boss tells them, oh no, real estate's crashing, or don't do this, don't do that, it can be really helpful to sort of put yourself in the perspective of how would they feel if a year from now things are very different. Like how would they feel, like to try and say it's not about you being pushy, it's about you actually do know more than they do, and certainly more than the media stories show. So it's kind of a mindset aspect. So this is the lead conversion challenge, right? So getting to the table and then getting the agreement. So Gary Keller talks about this is the challenge in a market where the frenzy has diminished a little bit. Like, if you're whenever there's a seller's market, right? People are like, I'm going to make a ton of money, and it's easy. Like people are like, they see the victory ahead. They're like, I can get $1 million, $2 million for my house, whatever. And they say, this is great. So getting to the table is not the problem. Having them choose you is the problem. But when it comes to in a buyer's market, again, it's not a problem to convince buyers. They're like, but you need to actually get the agreement that they want to work with you. So capturing and converting is more important than ever in a shifting market, right? When the market is in a frenzy, you basically just need to make sure that they choose you. But when it comes to a market that is shifting, you need to answer a lot of questions. You need to overcome objections because they're not going to just, they're not convinced as of yet. So we start to get a lot of questions about not just how much is my house worth, or how much, like what could I get for this budget, but questions like, is now the right time? What's coming next? Like these questions that are a lot harder to answer because it's about forecasting. So today we're going to focus the first bit here on capturing leads, connecting with them, and then converting them to an appointment. So, I'm just trying. I'm going through both things here to make sure that I've got the right one up here. let's go through these skills to convert leads, right? So, four basic ones, capture, connect, close, and cultivate. And sometimes the 3 and 4, as you can tell by the arrows there, mix and change up a little bit. So, where would you guys rate yourself in terms of those 4 skill sets? If let's just say let's be really broad, good or bad, right? Bad, Rocco, you say bad in all of them or just some of them?
Some of them.
Do you want me to just sort of like, I mean, and I'll give you a quick summary here. So capturing leads, right? So this is your skill at capturing leads. So the system that you use from your lead generation, making sure that you're getting all the necessary information, so that informs you about the motivation of the lead to buy or sell. That's the capture side of things, right? Connecting, so that's responding quickly, asking great questions, knowing enough about the market. That's the connecting side of things. Converting is actually getting an appointment, right? And then converting these motivated leads to business, and then cultivating is that skill to build authentic relationships. So you're providing this consistent value. We often talk about, there's scripts for everything, and sometimes people will focus on a script or a stage that they're not actually getting to. So if you're no good at capturing leads, and by that I mean you meet people, but you don't get their name, you don't know anything about them. Like, so you're like, oh, what are you doing? So I'm going to all of these events and I'm meeting lots of people. And I go, great. Tell me how many people you put into your database. And you're like, 0. Right? Like I meet people, we chat, and we have a little conversation. Oh, you're real estate. Oh, how's the market? And they ask, and then they go, great to meet you. And you leave. And you're like, I don't know who they were. I can't follow up with them. Like, if that is your problem, then like that's the first point, right? So if you're not good at capturing leads, then you're not going to be good at connecting with the leads, because you can't, right? They disappear from your life, and you're like, I met this guy who said that he was thinking about selling. Wonderful. When are you going to follow up? I don't know his name, right? That's where you can identify it. And then as you go down this process, if you say, great, so you met someone who was interested in selling, you got their information, and then you say, that's great, and it's been on this piece of paper. That piece of paper has been on your desk for a month and a half. Yes. When are you going to talk to them? Soon. Right? But then you call them and they go, oh yeah, I bought last week. And you go, great, thank you. Great. So that's that. Like it's pretty easy to identify. So Rocco, you think you're bad at all 4?
One. I'm good at one.
Which one?
Capture crucial lead information.
Okay, good. You when you meet someone, you get some information about them.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's
I'm a good, how do you say, opener, but I can't close.
okay.
Because I don't like pushing people. When I used to go sell real estate, I had a friend who took me out one time with my customers. He was a very, very, very pushy guy. I said, don't do that. Don't do that. It's not nice. But when you take the people off and show them 30 houses and I don't push them, I'm never going to sell them a property.
Yeah.
So he came out with me, pushed him, we put the offer in that night. So I have to push somehow. And I can't do that. That's my problem with it.
So I'd suggest, I mean, that's, when I joined Keller Williams, it's, what do you think that? I said, well, I've never been in group therapy, but I imagine it's kind of like being in group therapy.
Yeah.
Right? Because we have it's mindset, right? Is a huge part of it, right? And so that's what, I mean, that's a self-limiting belief, right? Is that you think it's being pushy and you're responding to it in a way that you think, I wouldn't want that. And again, it's how you sort of reframe it in your mind to be like, what if they chose to work with someone else who was terrible, that didn't care about them? Like, even like, if you care about them,
that has happened.
of course, yes. But it's just, it's one of these things that it is. So the self-realization of sort of where the hurdle is that you need to pass. I think that's great sort of self-insight, Rocco. Yeah. So how about yourself? Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask how he does capturing leads very well?
Sure.
Like
Before, I don't know how it is now. I would go to the MLS and I would find expired listings the last 2 or 3 months. And I would look up their telephone number and I would call them. And in a month, I would call 1,000 people. I was just constantly on the phone. And that's where I got my leads. And then if it was a really nice looking house or even a terrible looking house, especially if it's a piece I have, sometimes I'm insecure and a little bit shy sometimes. So I will go to like a less of a neighborhood. I would feel more comfortable. And I would go knock on the door of a house that was expired. And that's how I would do it. I would never do the newspaper. Remember, we used to have those I wouldn't use that.
Hmm.
So expired, look up the telephone, call them, and go knock on the door. I would do, that's the way I would do it. And sometimes if it didn't relist again a month later, I would keep everything out of long list, and I would go again. I'll start all over again. So every morning,
officially we can't approach the expired leads.
yeah, nowadays,
Yeah, now that is changed. Yeah, so.
nowadays, so that's what I have to watch out for.
But you, like, what good, bad? Which do you think you're good at any of them?
I'm not sure exactly because I think depending on the market, it can change. For example, let's talk about lead generation. Like in a, let's say, a market that everything is kind of like, it's not a seller, it's a balanced market,
Yep.
then you can capture. And then if you are not closing, that means maybe you are not really great in between that. But when the market is shifting, I think you need to increase your lead generation. And so that's what I feel like. Like, I don't feel like I'm good at lead generation because I don't get the leads that ready to close.
That's the point that they talk about here is like when leads are plentiful, when you're getting like a lot of people, you can be terrible at conversion and you're still doing okay, right? And that is Tom Mitchell, so Tom and Diane Mitchell, along with their daughter Jamie Lee Bongard, and Vincent, son-in-law, they own this brokerage as well as a couple of other ones. So Tom is a door knocker extraordinaire. Like he go through a pair of shoes a month. Like literally, he would like his shoes would be destroyed. This is before he sort of slowed down, and now Vincent does it. But Tom, I remember Diane talking about Tom was so he'd get the appointments, terrible at converting, terrible. So they stopped sending Tom. Tom will get the appointments, but then they sent another team member because Tom was like, he's like, no problem grinding it out and making company. And they're like, oh, you should, okay, well, yeah, like he was good at closing, but he wasn't good at so he got the appointment, but then he couldn't convert it. So, but you know what? When he door knocked like 10 hours a week, even when it was just Tom and they were pretty terrible conversion ratios, they still did a lot of business. It made sense to try and improve that bit because that was one hard aspect was getting the appointment. You're like, we should try and close more of these. But it is your skill set. Like if you have from abundance comes choice, right? So if you have a ton of options, if you're really good, like so if however bad Rocco may identify as like not being able to convert these leads, at least he has the ability, he can do it as opposed to someone who you're like, if I could actually get any people's contact information, I'm sure I can convince them to hire me, but I'm really terrible at asking for that. So I don't even get it the second. So, how about yourself?
Well, because I'm like just jumping off the cliff right now and getting into this. I'm, I guess, working on the capturing lead information and working on my database. So that is what right now I need to really work on, and then understand how they're all connected. But the first one is what I need to really get on.
Okay. It all starts there. Like you're
exactly.
like if you say this, we joke about like a secret agent. You're like, I'm the best real estate agent. You're like, but you're a secret agent because nobody knows you're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
You meet people and you don't talk about what you do. You just like or if you do, like you don't actually get any of their information. So yeah, it's a skill set.
But it's funny how your mindset shifts once you're in this environment. So now, like, I'm going to a fundraiser on Saturday. My son is in a hockey tournament next week. And so it's like, okay, I need to get cards. I need to, or even just have my phone with me. What's your information? And I'll send you the fine kind of thing, right? I'm already, because I wasn't actively doing anything, it never really occurred to me to.
Sure. You know what the one benefit, even if you're refocusing or you're newer, people will believe you, right? Like if like they don't know you in other contexts, right? So if they say nice to meet you, Frida, what do you do? And you go, I'm a real estate agent. They go, okay, they believe you. Right? And they're like, oh, that's interesting. And then they'll probably say something like, how's the market? And I heard this once. I mean, this is a great response to how's the market. You say, oh, are you thinking about selling? And because it's a natural question, like, why do you care?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, are you thinking about selling? And if they go, yeah, we have actually been considering. Oh, that's interesting. Like, and then you can have a conversation. If they go, if they say, how's the market? You go, you think about selling? They go, no, we just moved last week or last year. No, we're not moving till the kids 15, 20 years. You go, oh, but it really depends on the, like, you don't have to,
You don't have to
It's-
aim to
this is no longer an interview.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, like you can relax a little bit. Right. But that is like, start from that. If someone says, how's the market? Say, it's a natural question. It doesn't feel weird. Right. He's like, why would you care? As opposed to you being into, I'm being quizzed. Right. And this is
Yeah.
someone who they're currently interviewing agents. And you're like, no, they may not be, but so, so good for you. Yeah. That's the,
That's a good way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep
So-
that in mind.
so this is our objectives for this course, or for today, right? This first half. So adopt a lead conversion mindset. Evaluate your systems for capturing leads. So that's the first one you were talking about, the lead conversion. Evaluate your systems for connecting with leads, and then convert leads by asking for the appointment, right? These are all crucial aspects to it. And what's really important is you have to start at one, right? You have to figure out like the mindset, because otherwise you're just going to go to all of these events and you're not going to get anything from it. Because it is, you can feel productive and you can lie to your spouse and to yourselves and to your family. You're like, no, I'm going to this thing because I need to. And then, oh, that makes sense. There's a joke about like when you become a real estate agent, right? And like strange calls from weird people at all times of the day, your spouse is like, good for you. You're like, you get that lead, right? Whereas opposed to others, I'm like, who's this woman calling you, Jeff? Right? So, so the lead conversion mindset is huge, but then yes, your systems, like it all needs to go in that, follow in the same process. So let's go through this in a little bit more detail. All right, here we go. Limiting beliefs. It's almost as if I read this before, and I didn't, but I have read the book enough. So when you unlimit your thinking, you unlimit your success. So there we go. There are some three limiting beliefs. What do any of those resonate with any of you guys?
All of them.
All of them? So let's go through them pretty briefly. So I mean, these are only there's tons of it, right? Like I'm not smart enough. I don't have a nice enough car. I'm not experienced enough in here. I'm new to this area or to this country. Like there's you have whatever limiting beliefs you want, right? Like, and so there's lots of them, but I don't have enough time for training. One of the biggest challenges as a real estate agent, a lot of agents confuse the ability to set your own schedule as meaning you have no schedule, right? And again, this is part of it. If you say, as an example, you're like, I've got the lead gen mindset. I'm out there and I'm working, and you're like, great. And you're like, now are you calling them? And you're like, no, I haven't had time yet. And you're like, why not? So if it's a part-time job, that's okay. But like, it all boils down to, you need to set the time. And so this is something that my teammate Kirsten, so 2 young kids, like a husband, who's working shift work, like she struggled with as well. And we kept going into it, which is, there's a world of difference between not doing the right things in the time that you've allocated. That's a problem, but not actually spending any time on it. That's the first problem, right? So if you don't make time for training, and I congratulate you guys as well as everybody on the call, like you don't learn, right? Like you say, I'm going to get to that next week, or I'm too busy. I've got to deal with this and that. And I'm not being dismissive of family, like responsibilities. Like a lot of people, they're like, this is not something that it's not as if I have the time. But agents who treat their real estate career like a job, like I start at 9 and I'm done at 5 and I have an hour for lunch. Oh my God, so successful. Like, I mean, it seems crazy, but you're like, oh, you just have to actually spend the time, because if you're spending the time and you're not getting results, then you just need to tweak what you're doing. But if you're not spending the time, then you're like, oh, I don't like the script. And you're like, you haven't used it. Like, what do you mean? Like, you're not actually spending the time. So I don't have time for training, I think is one that is predicated on this idea of this not having actually set a schedule. What about I can't be successful in this market? Does that resonate? Rocco's like, no, I can be successful. Good man.
Yeah, I think there's opportunities in every market for either side.
find it
It's
a good one.
being persistent and consistent and seeing those opportunities.
For sure. And I mean, we know this logically, but sometimes it can feel different. But so if you're in a seller's market, where you're like, this is a very challenging time to buy, and there are people who have to buy, like they have to buy, right? Like they're like, oh, we just had a baby. Oh, it was twins. We need to buy, right? Oh, we just moved to this area for this job. We have to buy. And similar, in a buyer's market, there are people who are like, they have to sell. They've gotten divorced. They've lost their job. They have the death of a loved one. Like it is not as if like people don't make their decisions in a vacuum, like where they're like, I will wait. Most people. I will wait to sell until it is the absolute best possible right time. People have reasons, right? They're like, now we need to. So yes, I'm a firm believer in you can be successful in any market. So yes, don't buy into that one. I can't devote 3 hours each day to lead gen. So this is again a limiting belief because it's a specific number, and whether you can or can't, you can do it in different ways. Like so, if you say I can't devote 3 hours, like Tuesdays are terrible for me. You're like, okay, well, can you do 4 hours on Monday, 4 on Wednesday, 4 on Thursday, and 3 on Friday? Yes, well, that's no problem. Like you can adjust it. It is amazing. So the 3 hours for lead gen. There's different things that people say these are good rules. You guys have heard of the 10,000 steps. You got to get your 10,000 steps in. You know where that came from? I just heard this recently, so I thought I'd share it.
I forget. The Greek, something Greek with.
It was a Japanese company that made the first digital pedometer, like to track your steps. It 9999. It stopped at 10,000. So they were like, that's what you need to get every day. You need to get 10,000. That was it. Like it wasn't like a scientists and like physical trainers and doctors were like 10,000 is what that's a healthy amount. It was just a technical limitation that became sort of part of the zeitgeist and common. Right? I read that and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So can't devote 3 hours. Well, 3 hours, that's great. I can only devote 2 hours, so I guess I won't bother. Well, that's like saying I can't go to the gym for very long. You're like, well, you should probably go for a little bit if you can.
Basically, something regarding this 10,000 steps.
Sure.
I used to count. I used to do 1,000 phone calls, and I would get 100 leads, and that was all the time. And then from those 100 leads, I would get 10, appointments.
Yep.
And maybe out of that 10, one.
Yeah, you were at the 10%.
So it was always at the 10. So if you don't make 1,000 phone calls, you're not doing anything.
Well, and that's so MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, right? The model, right? Like you work at that, like you're like, how much money do you want to make? Okay, well, what's your average commission? How many deals? So how many listings? Like how many deals you need to do in order to get this? It's the exact same thing, right? You break it down where you're like, I need to make this many calls because I'm going to. Yes, so absolutely, like the size of your database, right? So we're going into some other stuff here, but it's interesting. So Keller Williams says that for every 12 people in your database, you should get one per year. You should get one deal and one referral, right? Like so 2. So it's basically for every 6 people in your database, you should get one deal, one directly and one they refer to you. If you're communicating with them effectively through like a Touch 33 or the new systems, like if you're actually staying in touch, not just you throw them in your database and then you ignore them, you don't get anything. But so if you say, okay, so that means for every 6, I get one deal. And so I'm like, well, the average price in Toronto is just over $1 million right now. So you say, so let's assume that's about a $25,000 commission for every deal. And you're like, I would like to make $250,000. That's my goal in gross commission. That's 10 deals, right? And if you want, if one out of every, if you get for every 6 people in your database, you get 1 deal, right? If you want 10 deals, you're like, I need to have at least 60 people that I'm staying in touch with. That's very optimistic. Privately, I think those numbers, that's quite optimistic, but still it gives you a way to look at it where you're like, I only have 30 people in my database. And you're like, yeah. So what are you going to make? You're like, probably, I mean, if it's true, 125,000. I want to make more. And if you think, oh, it's in fact not 1 out of every 6, it's 1 out of every 10. That's the exact way of thinking.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah, you can't. And again, from abundance comes choice, right? So this is all the mindset aspects. So here we go. So practice on limiting your beliefs. What is a limiting belief you've had that you needed to remove? How did you do it? What new successes? Do you guys have an example of that? Can any of you think about something? It can be personal, but if it was real estate related, it might be more relevant.
I can share something.
Yeah.
I was door knocking in the start of my career, just soon after Ignite. I finished real estate exams, and then I took Ignite, and then I started door knocking. And I had that limiting beliefs, I'm door knocking, meeting people, saying hi. Who is gonna buy a house like that from somebody? Like how that trust can just settle. And I really had hard time, like even calling and following. I was thinking like this is so odd. But like one person, I door knocked once. I saw her in person, and I gave her a couple of calls. And then actually now she's looking to purchase a property with me, which I'm still surprised. I wasn't expecting. So now I'm thinking, okay, that actually could happen. I don't know if that was a good example.
Well, I mean, I do think it'll change. Like, so when this happens, so yes, you didn't think the limiting belief was you thought that nobody chooses a real estate agent who just knocks on their door.
Exactly.
Nobody does that. And then somebody does it. And you're like, to you, right? You're like, you get a client out of it. And then so fast forward, you do a deal with this person, and then you're talking with a brand new agent, and they go, it seems crazy to me. Nobody actually hires someone. And you go, I used to think that way. But let me tell you, I made this much money because I knocked on this door, and that person, I was at the right place, right time, and they liked how I presented myself, and boom, boom, boom. So I think that's a great example. I used to think that whenever I did the buy and sell for people, I had to lower the sale commission. So if someone bought a house with me and I'm like, I'm making 2.5% on that purchase, and then when it comes to sell their place, I'd be like, I'm going to give them a discount. I'm going to drop it to 2% or whatever. I'm going to give them a discount because I appreciate that I just made a bunch of money on the buy, and now I don't need to. They're having me pay for the sell. So that was a limiting belief I had, and it took. It was probably my first 3 or 4 years of real estate before, because what happened again and again. So I would help someone buy, and then we'd go to sell their place, and I'd say, I'm going to discount the commission. And it was like the third time that one of these clients said to me, really? Are you sure? Then I was like, why do I keep offering this? Why? What? Because they don't expect it. They want service, right? They want to get the best price in the least amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Like they trust me. Like they want to work with me. But it was like, it wasn't until like the third time that someone was like, oh, well, you don't need to do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, then I won't. No, I can't do that. So I stopped offering it. And I have and within my team as well. I've charged 2.5%. I haven't discounted in 8 years. And that's from everything from like 500,000 to like $2.5 million listings. I'm like, that's what I charge. And I even have in my listing presentations, I explain that this is part of when it comes to the commission side of things. It's very simple right now. I say, let's talk about commission. My brokerage, we charge 5%, 2.5% goes to my brokerage, 2.5% goes to the cooperating broker. So the buyer is agent. I said, if you're wondering if that's negotiable, it's not. I charge 2.5% because of 3 things. I price it properly, I market it effectively, and I negotiate it aggressively. My job here today is to convince you that I'm worth 2.5%. Does that sound fair? And they go, no, and I'll forget. I say, if I do a terrible job and you don't want to hire me, there we go. But if you're wondering if there was a discount, no. And it's fine. But that's again, I had to get rid of a limiting belief, which is they're expecting a discount. That was my limiting belief, and they're not.
But I loved your confidence in saying that to them. it shows that you're a confident realtor,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Like by saying, this is it.
Yeah.
So you take it or leave it
Yeah.
kind of thing, rather than, okay, I'm gonna,
I-
you sound a little wishy-washy when you discount them. So
Sure, yeah, and
that sounds very like confident
yeah,
about that.
I mean, it worked, right?
Yeah.
But it took some time, I guess, but
Yeah.
that's the sort of, when you're able to say that and you mean it. I am, so Mark Morris, who is our lawyer of record, for Keller Williams Advantage, tremendous, great lawyer, and he's a buddy of mine. And Mark at one point said to me, he said, Jeff, people hire me because I pound the table and I say, no, this shall not stand. And I'm very adamant. And I go, I know, Mark, and I love it because I've seen you had a position where you're like, no, that is absolutely wrong. And then a week later, arguing the exact opposite. And he goes, well, you notice that? Okay, good. Right. So,
Sounds confident in both.
oh yeah,
sides,
yeah.
right?
Confidence is huge. So, so yes,
Great.
I do think, and this is where Keller Williams is going to be helpful, but you will also have limiting beliefs pushed on you by people who are not in the industry. So, again, the commission side of things is often, money is often where it comes to, right? Because we can make so much money on an individual deal. In some cases, we can make what is an average person's annual salary on a deal, right? I did a $3.325 million purchase a couple months ago, $90,000. That was the commission. That's a lot of money. And we get used to, like in real estate, you start like, oh, these are the numbers with an average price point, as I said, of over $1 million, $25,000. But there are people that are like, who make $38,000 a year and work 9 to 5 and get 2 weeks vacation. It's understandable why you can, if you come at it from the perspective of the average, income that people are making, that you can start to say, how do I justify this, right? And then you start to say, I'm going to give you a discount. When I went to visit a client of mine and a buddy, and his business partner was there, and we were sitting down in the living room, and his business partner said, we were talking about real estate, because once you're in real estate, they're like, oh, real estate. And so they start asking questions, and Julian is his name, his business partner. He said, how, it seems crazy to me that, still 2.5%, like that's crazy that you guys, 5%, you're charging that because prices have gone up so much and your work hasn't gotten hurt. Like that's common sort of idea. And I was there, we were having a drink, and I said, do you want to hear my answer, Julian? Like, I'm okay. Like, we're just talking. I can nod, but you're not going to hire me. Like, but I was like, do you want to hear the response to that? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay. I said, and this is something that I came up with. I used to, before I became a real estate agent, I worked a number of different roles, but one of them was in HR. I said, one of the bases for all compensation models is impact of errors. There's a reason why a receptionist gets paid less than a CEO. It's not necessarily because the job is that much harder, requires more time. Like there can be jobs that are quite hard that are paid less. And a big part of it goes to impact of errors. If the receptionist makes a mistake, how much damage can she do to the company? Very little. If the CEO makes a mistake, he can do a ton of damage. So one reason you're talking about real estate prices are so much higher. If a real estate agent makes a mistake on your $2 million property, it doesn't cost you $500. It can cost you tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he was like, I was like, so when it comes to there's the reason, right? Is you're paying for someone who's not going to make a mistake. Because if you hire someone who will just do it for the cheapest price, and say they price it poorly, or whether they leave too much money on the table because they don't realize how much it's actually worth, or they price it too high and it sits, and then eventually you have to cut and sell for a low price. That's going to cost you a lot of money. What if they're terrible at marketing and people see it online and go like, it looks like a terrible house, so they come in and they're like, I don't like it at all. What if he's a terrible negotiator, or she is a terrible negotiator? So these are all the ways in which the impact of errors are huge, because you're talking about a very expensive asset. And he was like, that's a good answer.
That is a good answer.
But this is the thing, right? So people will push limiting beliefs on you, right? Like, oh, well, you're never gonna be successful in this neighborhood because this guy's got it all locked up. You know, like this agent is the number one agent. By the way, and this goes back to your 10%, Rocco. Like, if this is something Doug and Julie taught me, if you look at if someone is like the dominant agent, everybody in the neighborhood is like, no, that person, they own this neighborhood. 10% of the sales are probably theirs. That's it.
They did say that in Ignite. I thought it was yeah.
Like it is, but like, and you can look it up, right? Like you say, oh, I'm looking in this area and look, right? It's just like sort by, like listing brokerage if you want, right? And you're like, you'll see some people, they're doing all right. Like, and but the perception, it's very limiting belief is that you're like, no, you can't do any work here. Suzanne Lewis, I remember, so Suzanne and I, along with Barb and a number of other people, were in a mastermind when I first started, when the Doug and Julie started. So, and Suzanne, at the time, was looking into like sort of growing her business and establishing herself in Riverdale. She wasn't known. And Claudio Cerrito, who was a Remax agent, like a very well-established agent there, people were like, you can't, don't bother. Suzanne bothered, and Suzanne's done extremely well because Suzanne figured out sort of the niche and like she positioned it, like, but she did the work. So this is the point: is you're going to hear a lot of things pushed on you, not just from other real estate agents. That'll happen as well. People, I've heard Barb say, and this is no disrespect to Barb because it's not how she focuses her business. Maybe she's changed her mind. This is years ago. She said, social media is, I don't think anybody actually gets business from social media. Barb doesn't, or maybe she did, maybe she does now with Tristan and Ruth and her team. But that was something that Barb didn't believe. That was a limiting belief. And it was certainly true at the time. Barb wasn't getting her business through social media because she thought that that didn't work. And whether it's true or not, it becomes real, right, and its consequences. So keep this very much in mind. Start being aware of that when you start to approach things, and look for exceptions. Right? You say nobody makes money in real estate on social media, and then you're like, this guy does. Nobody makes money, like door knocking. Like nobody hires an agent off of door knocking. You're like, oh, these people do quite well. Nobody just throws parties. Like whatever example you're thinking of that you think doesn't work.
I think door knocking is the best.
I hate it, and I've done it.
Well,
No. But I'm not disagreeing with you, Rob.
No. If I'm a homeowner,
Yeah.
and someone takes the time to come to knock on my door, instead of that person's pictures on the wall over there, I'd rather deal with this person.
They're working. Yeah.
Who came to say hello to me, with my respect. That person just has a picture. They don't do anything. That's the way I look.
Yeah, and when I say I hate it, I'm not. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that I don't think it's effective. I think it's tremendously effective. I don't like doing it, but this is why. Like I took bold a number of times. I've done all of these things. I've door knocked. I've cold called. Like what I figured out that where my strength is and where I'm really comfortable is on building a database, staying in touch, coming from contribution, sort of establishing.
How do you build a database if you're not allowed to call expiries? You don't have that magazine anymore where we could advertise. Now it's all on the computer.
So there's a number of, I don't know whether we'll get into it here. Like the alphabet exercise where you go through like A, and you're like, so like professions, you're like, do I know any accountants? Do I know any architects? Do I like B, G, like you start going through these things, and who do I know in that? And then you reach out to them and you reintroduce yourself, or you talk and you ask the question about like, you're like, are you interested in staying in touch with me about real estate? We haven't talked about that. And you'll be surprised. Some people are like, that'd be great.
I don't want to take up your time. I don't want to go on top of it. Is there another course for this?
For what?
Getting leads and how to get leads and how to advertise.
I think that's what this is kind of. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. That's the
Are
right.
you coming to Kiki's coaching?
Yeah, but sometimes I talk too much, and I realize I interrupt Kiki a lot. So I try not
She has a
to.
lot to.
I know, but I talk too much sometimes. So don't get me started.
Okay. Quiet, bro.
Thank you.
So here's the mindset, right? So every lead has the potential to turn into business. Treat every lead as precious. Find out which leads are able, ready, and willing. Cultivate other leads until they're able, ready, and willing. Use your sales ability and knowledge to move people from inquiry to a closed transaction, and ask for the appointment. I will say that the last one there, ask for the appointment, or even directly ask. one of the challenges that I had was not shying away from the question. So I'm going to give you two ways of trying to get at the same thing. So one is, great to meet you, Rocco. This was a nice conversation. Let me know if you or someone else ever needs real estate help. You're like, well, kind of. And you go, okay. And then I say, great to meet you, Rocco. Really enjoyed the conversation. If you or someone you know needs real estate help, will you call me? Then I shut up. One is I'm making a statement, and I'm not asking for your agreement or anything. Like, I'm just saying something. The other is I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you to commit. And if you say yes, the odds of it actually happening go up tremendously. And if I said the first version, which is, give me a call. And in your head, you're thinking, but my brother-in-law's a real estate agent, so I won't actually call Jim. And I walk away from that thinking, that was a great connection. Rocco's going to probably call me. But if I ask you, and I put you on the spot, I asked the question, I said, would you, if you may say, actually, Jeff, my brother-in-law is a real estate agent. And I go, oh, okay. I didn't know that. I appreciate that. I hope my clients, my family, in-laws are as loyal as you are. If you ever need a second opinion or a backup, or if sometimes real estate agents leave the industry, would you call me? He says, yes. You go, great. But you ask the question, right? So this is like the asking for the appointment. I sometimes it's like going right up and then swerving, right? Where you don't actually ask. Like back to the dating world, like you didn't ask for the date. Yeah. You just be like, sure, it'd be great to go out to dinner sometime with people. And they're like, yeah, going out to dinner is wonderful. And you're like, right? It's a crucial bit there. For me, that was, if I was doing everything right, but I wasn't actually asking for the appointment. I was like, they'll ask me if they're interested.
It's because you're afraid to be rejected, so you don't ask that question.
Yes. Oh, Rocco, you cut me to the quick. Yes. No, but it's true, right? Fear of rejection is a huge thing. It's one reason why I didn't like door knocking and cold calling. And I could, so arguably it's still a limiting belief. It's just something I did not like the initial distrust and barrier that people, I knock on the door and they're like, what do you want? Like that mindset. I did not like that. I much prefer when I'm like, when I meet people, we're chatting and they're like, oh yeah, you seem to, I'd like to be interested. And I'm like, great. Like then I'm like all gung ho, but I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And
so
yeah.
When I interviewed Sean, I tried to give him a hard time. He didn't budge. Just responded really nice. All that time I said, this is the place to be. That's how they react. Also, when I deal with other really, really top agents, I give them a difficult time. Their answers are so professional, so nice. They always have an answer, but it's never negative. So I think that's very important, how to respond to the rejection. That's something I have to learn.
Any ahas that you guys have from this section, sort of a mindset?
I think your example was really great. Like when they say ask for appointment, I was always thinking, everybody suggests that. Like, do they mean like go on the table, talk about selling their house or buying something? Like, why do they, like, that doesn't happen just right away. Like, it's a process. But the way that you said, like, getting that commitment from them, like, will you call me if that happens? It's kind of now I'm thinking, okay, appointment is not only like, let's have a seat, sell your house.
Do you know what one of the hardest things in real estate is when you thought you were cultivating someone, like you thought that they were going to call you when they were ready, and then they do business with someone else. It's heartbreaking, right? Because it feels like a personal rejection. And you say like, I just wasted all this time and I can't believe they did this to me. And most of the time, so some of the time, rarely, it is they gave you a commitment and then they just backtracked on that commitment. They're like, I said, Rocco, will you call me if you were someone? You go, yes, Jeff, I think you're great. And I go, wonderful. And then I see a month later, I'm like, how's it going? You're like, great, we just bought a house. And I'm like, You said you would call me. And like, I mean,
That's
that
difficult.
can, it can happen, but it's much rarer if you actually ask the question. But what is not rare is people saying things like, oh, I didn't know you do residential. I didn't know you work in this neighborhood. I didn't know you wanted to work with me. Because I thought, I'm in Brampton and you're in Toronto. So I just assumed that's why. And you're like, that's on me. Like that, but this is the mindset side of things, right? It feels bad, but it's your fault, my fault, right? Like when that happens, and it has happened to me. So, there's nothing it's a terrible feeling, right? Realizing that you didn't show to someone that you were interested in working with them. And so they chose someone else. They didn't choose someone else. They thought you weren't interested. That's on you. So just be aware of that, right? Is it clear to them that you'd like to work with them? And if they choose against to use someone else, I feel like for me personally, that's not great, but it's okay. Like, I mean, but I asked. At least it's not on me. They made a decision knowing that I was interested, that I work in residential. I know this, blah, 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 whatever it is. Does that resonate?
Oh yeah, totally. I had that situation happen last year. Like there was someone very close to me that's all we talked about was like, not all, but like often talked about, they totally destroyed someone who never used me to help them out to buy their properties. And when time comes, for sure, we're using you. Like, of course, there's no question. And then it was often, like we would talk often about real estate, and they wanted to buy last year in the spring, wanted to buy pre-construction. I'm like, I don't know about that right now. Because you could see how everything was like, my husband still works in commercial real estate, and they're doing they're doing reds right now too. And he's the numbers guy. He was like, that's crazy pre-construction right now. So I was trying to say, not convince them, but like say that's really difficult right now. Be like, no, we like payment structure, all this stuff. So I kind of left it. And a month later, they phoned me to say, oh, I just wanted to let you know we have some good news. And I'm thinking they're expecting. It's like, no, we bought a house.
Pre-construction?
No, not pre-construction. And I would never have advised them to buy this house, right? It was way overpriced. It's like, there's so many things that were not right with it for them. But someone sold them a house. It was, oh, my good friend helped us, but you can help us sell it.
You're like, cool, thank you.
Right? So how do you so do you just, I have now taken in a sense the hurt out of that and just like, well, that was their choice. And not everybody thinks the way I think with respect to it being something that they can build wealth from. Like they're young, they're starting out, like how to find properties that they can add value. Like this is like nothing. Like they are stuck.
I think so I'll certainly ask the group as well, but from my perspective, the positive you can take away from that is because you weren't forceful enough, because you weren't clear enough in some way, shape, or form to them, they made a terrible decision that's going to impact them financially in a bad way. And the next time you're encountering someone where you're like, oh, we're thinking about this, you just be clear and you say, the last thing I want is for you to make a decision you're going to regret. So I'm going to tell you a story. It's not a fun story. Boom, 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 right? And say, please don't do that. There are, unfortunately, in TREB, the Toronto Real Estate. So you can say, our real estate board is the largest in the world. That's true. Like it's the largest real estate board in the world. There are over 70,000 real estate agents, and a lot of them aren't experienced. A lot of them do very few deals. They don't know what's going on. Please, I want you to get the best result. Like you be more forceful,
Right.
Because you're like, that is not happening. Not on my watch again. To your point, like it's not being pushy. If you're like, oh my God, and it's too late. If someone's like, I bought this car, and you're like, that car's terrible. That's a lemon. Everybody talks about how that car is terrible, and you're like, and they're like, well, and they get mad. And you're like, it's it's not you. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
done.
Yeah,
Right?
no. But I look at it often and I look at then what's listed around and they're like already 200 under what they paid. And I'm like, oh my God,
I had friends.
so bad.
I actually helped them buy investment property out movies, but they bought their house in 2017, their current house, in like the height of the 2017 frenzy.
March.
March of 2017.
Yeah.
And they paid so they were all of the highest sales on this street of these types of homes all took place in March, the top three, and they were the top one. It was listed at like 1.6 and they paid 2.5. Something like insane. I did a valuation for them like 5 years after that, like last year at some point. Their houses were still worth less than what they paid. Like it happens. It can happen
Yeah.
if you overpay. But they didn't use me to buy, right? That was sort of, I skipped over that. Like
They're wanting you to sell it.
they like,
But see, it's difficult for
but-
you now.
no, but they're not. And I was like, I said, they're not selling it. Like, I said, I'm sorry. But I'm like, they're still like, I mean, there are homes that just sold like last week on your street that I'm like, it's a similar home and it sold for $200,000 less than what you paid 5 years ago. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I obviously I want to help you, but, and he's like, I mean, like, that's not good news, but I'm like, but that's, you need to absorb some of this stuff. And then when you're talking with people, it's not being rude or pushy if you see someone about to make a mistake, right? And whether it's that
Yeah.
walking into traffic, whatever analogy you need to use in your head, just to be like, please let me advise you for these reasons. I would absolutely hate to see this here. I know how hard you work on blah blah, like whatever it is, right? But just to sort of push forward with this. All right, let's keep going. Get right. Action shift. Get to quick to add text. All right. Capture, connect, convert. So this is from the actual shift book. So oops. Conversion success comes to those who intentionally and repeatedly do three things with every day: capture, connect, and close. So so we're in the relationship business, right? It's interesting. That's what it says here. I know people who aren't in the relationship business. So someone who's in my downline, so who joined Keller Williams, put me as their sponsor. Her name is Nancy Preet. So she's a real estate agent out in Mississauga, successful agent. I was talking about how I do my business, stay in touch, conversations, right? And I was going through her at one point in a mastermind we were having, and she said, Jeff, I don't even want to talk about my kids, let alone someone else's kids. If they're not interested or buying or selling, I don't want to talk to them. And I was like, cool. Nancy's successful. Nancy door knocks. Nancy. There's lots of ways to succeed. There are people who are like, I'm not a long-term relationship person, right? Like, and there's teams out in Kitchener Waterloo that I remember gone and visited who like all they do is they have almost a zero repeat business. It's not because they're terrible; it's because they don't care. All they do is they make calls and they find people, and then people are like, I'm thinking about selling next year. They're like, okay, bye. They don't want to cultivate. They don't want to do all of these things, right? So you can choose to what extent you want to do it, right? So I'm okay with the fact that I stay in touch with people, and it might be years later that they give me their business. I'm okay with that because I've kind of systematized it, so it's not tremendously onerous on me. But other people are like, no, I'm not interested in that. Like, I want to find people who are interested in doing work now. The downside of my approach of anyone who's based on like sphere is we can't dictate like when it's going to happen. If you have a big enough database and you're like, you can be like, okay, cool. A bunch of these people are going to buy or sell this year. But in other case, like, it's not as if I'm not out there shaking the tree, knocking on doors, like calling people to see who wants to sell next week. I've had people who like, they've been thinking about selling for like 3 years. Will they sell at some point? Yes. Will it be with me? Almost certainly. When will it be? When it makes sense for them. I don't push them because that's about me, where I'm like, I need to make money. you should sell. That's not that's the sort of the pushiness, right? As opposed to if someone is like, I'm just going to wait until the market recovers. And I'm like, well, okay, well, let's talk about that because that's a different thing, right? But so we're in the relationship business, but how deep a relationship or how long a relationship, you guys get to choose that.
Is there a certain percentage of, like, what is the percentage of repeat business? Do they say this, the statistics are for,
I don't know offhand.
they say that people sell every 7 to 10 years, like,
See,
right?
a mortgage broker I know said it's like 3.8,
Repeat business?
no, 3.8 years.
Really?
Yeah. That's what he saw when he looked at his data. So
This
It-
is before 2022.
maybe it is a function of how long it takes for people to recover, because that used to be the thing, right? Is like you need a length of time before your transaction costs, you know, your land transfer tax and your realtor fees before you recover from that. I did a workup a number of years ago. I should do it again, where for like a detached house, it was like 9 months. Like that was like based, I mean, this is based on like the average appreciation and so forth. If we looked at it now, it would probably be a number of months longer. So I think, yeah, actually. So this is, we were talking about the MREA, right? The lead generation model. So you guys are familiar with this, right? So this idea, so lead capture, so prospects and marketing, it goes into your database, right? So you form relationships, right? And you strengthen existing relationships, you prepare them for conversion, it's interactive and needs-based, right? And then there's new ones and referrals, right? So this is the idea behind the lead gen model. Have all of you read the MREA? You know that book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
No,
It's an easy book.
I haven't, but I haven't.
Yeah, ask around. We've got it for sale here as well. It's a bestseller for a reason. It's pretty straightforward. They've updated it sort of somewhat, but this is a big part of it. So what do you guys have for a current lead capture system? Do you if you go out and meet people, what do you do? So Rocco, you said that
Right now, I have past clients 20 years ago, so I don't bother with them. I will be going to visit them because they are good people. And I'm just hoping to do open houses. That's where I used to get a lot of my leads. I mean, a lot of leads came from open houses.
Mhm.
When I did an open house, I wasn't concerned about getting a buyer. But I really want to show the people that own houses around that, hey, I'm doing open houses, it's raining. And I got a lot of work from that, you know, it's raining, this guy's still working.
Yep.
So right now I'm hoping to do open house. But I think this time of the year is not the time for open house. It's getting cold, this and that, the market's slow. But I think the market is great for everybody to sell and to buy.
it depends
Possibly
on
the same.
yeah, on the open house side of things, it depends on, it's very neighborhood and like housing specific, right? So I've had, you know, very quiet open houses and you have very, very busy ones. So they ask like, how do you categorize your leads? So everybody's familiar, we have Command, KW Command, right? The CRM platform, which I make tremendous use of. All of my campaigns that I was talking about go through Command for our team. That's how we've got it set up. I would urge you, if you're not familiar with it, to start getting into it, because you can add the contacts there. You can send out campaigns like these email campaigns. You can set up reminders for phone calls. Like all of this Command it's a full featured CRM that's included. There's no
Okay,
cost.
keep going over it with
Oh, yeah,
us. It's
yeah.
part of our October challenge with her.
It really is.
In October coming?
Was
It's sort of an
part our
ongoing thing.
Part of our ongoing thing, but the actual Command, the tech part of it is on, the introduction is like every Monday
Oh.
at 2:00, I think, the tech
Yeah,
workshops,
And-
at
and-
2:00 every day.
and there's tons of videos and stuff. It's one of these things where yes, you can ask Carlos as an example. Don't ask Carlos to teach you, but say to Carlos, can you tell me where some resources are so that I can learn about Command? And he will. Kiki obviously as well, but Carlos is, you know, before he was MCA, he was sort of the tech side of things. So we can definitely say, here you go, Rocco. Here you go. Take a look at this. Okay, so
I want to add something, like when we talk about clients, you know how I said there was a like client that I found when I was door knocking? I was putting them in my command and just like doing neighborhood nurturing.
Yep.
And I was surprised when I checked command, she was actually like recently active.
Right.
Like I didn't even following up. I wasn't doing anything, but I saw in command she was recently active when she started calling me that she wants to buy something. It is actually really great. Lots of people.
Yeah.
Let's start doing
Well,
that.
you see when people look at them, like and open it up and everything? Okay.
Yeah, and as they start to integrate more of AI, like so, this is the sort of thing is uh, so they are integrating AI into command in a number of different ways. But one of the aspects that I heard and I was like, that makes so much sense to me is so you set up someone on these neighborhood nurture and so forth, and they're using command, to access to look at things, and then you get a notification that says they, in the last week, there's been a 75% increase in the frequency of how often they're looking at things. Called.
So is that only if they download the app, or is that if they open up the email?
That's if they open up the email and they use, so like this neighborhood nurture that you're talking about is like it shows some stuff and you can click on it and you can but it's accessed through command.
Mhm.
I don't know if she downloaded the app. I didn't ask, but
Oh,
like
so
It's
I
just
sent
the
her
email goes to a
now.
website, yeah, right. So, but you're able to track it.
Okay, great.
Okay, so capturing leads, right? So this is find the motivated, able, ready, and willing, right? So here's the most have information, right? Phone, email, and address. So this is one of the things where we talk about there is a synergy to it, right? If all you have is an email for someone, emails are easy to ignore, right? If you don't actually have their address, you don't know where they live, you can't really tailor the information that's going to them, right? And if you don't have the phone number, like you can't ever like say like, oh, like, hey, I'm doing an open house in your neighborhood, or oh, hey, did you see what this, like there's all sorts of opportunities that you're not going to be able to capitalize on because you're sending an email. So having those three things, that's what constitutes. So like within how I've identified within our team, someone is not, this is my personal definition, it's not the shift thing, but so I talk about a connection. A connection is someone where I met somewhere, like I'm at a party or an event or something. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I have one piece of information, but I have not yet communicated with them that I'm in real estate and that I'd be interested in staying in touch with them about real estate. In order for them to become a contact, I need those three things. Because a campaign for me and for my team is they get emails, they get mailings, and they get phone calls. Ideally, I see them in person at least once a year. That's sort of like the other aspect to it. But I need those three things so that I can follow up. And I can say, hey, how's it going? I just sent you tickets to the home show, like how are things? And they go, oh, great, well, chat. And oh, my sister wants to buy. Cool. Like it's not rocket science, right? This is if you stay in touch with people, but you need those three things, right? So a lot of people, when they say, oh, I have a database, my database, I've got like 17,000 people in my database. And I'm like, you have 17,000 email addresses? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, how many of them are still good? I don't know, right? How much business do you get from them? Not much, right? Like I'm a big believer in quality over quantity. The quality is having those three things so that you can actually reach out, right? Keller Williams, like the Touch 33, all of these systems, they're not just like you send emails automated from command and you never have to do any work. The return on that is limited. The return on any one of these is limited. But if they get emails from you, they get stuff in the mail from you, and you call them, those are the ones that don't buy with somebody else because they didn't think you're interested because they forgot they could do this thing. That's the other. So you talked about Rafa, like old clients. One of the things that's a limiting belief is that so say you've been meaning to call someone for a week, a month, a year, a decade. You've been meaning to call someone for a long time. And you think every time you think about them, you go, bad. But we're not that important. In the best possible way, they got other things going on. I have people who I know I need to call, and I am positive. I have to call this woman, Margaret. She was looking to sell, but she's like, no, so I've let it go for a couple of months. It's on me, right? But Margaret doesn't wake up every day and go, is today the day? Is Jeff going to call? Margaret's got a lot of other things going on in her life. And so like that's a limiting belief that people are going to be pissed off and it'll be like, well, Rocco, you are alive. And you might get one of those, but most will be like, oh, Rocco, how's it going? So good. Yeah, I was just thinking about you. I saw, yeah, we love the house. We're actually maybe thinking about selling. You're so, oh, great. Like, it's a limiting belief, right? So like, we're not that important to other people. Like, like get back in touch. And for every one person who gives you a hard time, that's just them saying they actually cared, right? Most people are like, oh, okay, cool. Oh yeah. Has it been a while, right? I send these weekly emails, and I've had enough. I can't even count the number of people who receive this weekly email who say, "Oh, I get your monthly email," and I'm like, "It's weekly, right?" We're not that important, but it's okay. They're well aware that I'm a real estate agent and that I still get business and so forth. So yes, must have information, do it. Birthday, home anniversary. So you guys can figure this out. I am not a big fan of the birthday cards and so forth. I feel like you need to put a lot of effort into it. There needs to be a genuine relationship for it to come across as something rather than just formulaic. Like if I get birthday cards from like my insurance agent who I've never met because I've been passed, on to 2 other times, and I'm like, it doesn't make me go, oh, right? It doesn't matter. Home anniversary, I think, is important if you help them buy, particularly if you're sending something of value about what their home is worth now or like indications. FORD is a great thing to use that acronym, right? Which stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? So this is a way of, if you're going out like to systematize, like you're meeting people, we're chatting. So, like, nice to meet you. How, tell me a little bit about yourself, and you start talking about things. And I go, you say we live in the neighborhood. I go, you say we, you have kids, and you go, oh yeah, I've got 2 kids. You start talking about yourself. I get your family. And you go, oh, that's great. Is most of your family your home? Most of my family still here. Blah, blah, blah. We talk about that. And I go, sorry. So you mentioned that you're a nurse. And they go, yeah. Oh, which hospital? Like occupation, right? And you go, that is fascinating. Do you find do you get enough time off? Do you have to do some fun stuff? And they go, oh yeah, well, we love to go to the cottage and we love boating. You're like, well, recreation, right? You say, and then like the D is the dreams. You're like, that sounds great. When you eventually retire, like, are you one of these people who wants to sort of sail around the world? Like, do you want to, you get into the dreams? That's a useful conversation because you're getting into a lot of things, not just like, what do you do? Do you want to buy or sell? Right. So if you have a structure, because otherwise in a conversation, you can be like, I don't know. What do you do? I'm a real estate agent. What do you do? Oh, I'm an accountant. You're like, nice to meet you. Or you're like, what, are you a CPA? I mean, like, where are you going with it, right? But so if you're struggling, think about that, right? So just to say, again, so you can bring it back to yourself, right? Which is, I'm so excited to be here. My kids have been driving me crazy. And they go, oh, yeah. And then you start that family conversation, however you want to do it, right? So whatever works for you, but that format I think is quite useful.
Sorry, what is it that you're asking them about their dreams?
That's more just about
like, do you have time off? Is recreation? Hope you got something.
Yeah. So
and then dream is.
Dreams are just more like huge goals and other things, right? Around what they would do. Like you say, have you always wanted to be a nurse? Right? And they go, oh yeah, yes. You say, if you won the lottery, would you still be a nurse? And they go, if I won the lottery, I'd be living in a castle in France drinking wine. And you go, oh my God, I love wine. Like get to the, what are their actual dreams? Yeah. You need make it your own. Like, and this, like you can't be like recreation. What do we do for recreation, right? Like, but it is just the structure. It's like when I worked in HR, there was a format. It's called STAR, right? Which is how you have to answer questions, right? Which it stands for situation, task, activity, and result. Tell me about a time you faced a challenge at one of your workplaces, and you're like, you sort of go all over the place, but you use this and you go, I was working at this company doing this job. I was asked to do this thing. This is the steps that I took, and this is what happened. That's a format that you can like. So like all of these things are just ways of of not getting trapped in your own syntax and having like a conversation that isn't going anywhere, right? Or like there's a lull, you say, anyway, I talk about people with their jobs all the time. What do you do for fun? Right? And like people are like, oh, cool. I love to talk about my passion. Oh my God, I love golf, like whatever it is, right? So try and just keep that in mind as an option as you go forward.
Jeff, before we pass, I just want to ask something. Sometimes I have hard time getting emails because people are, let's say, elderly. I started growing up in a neighborhood and majority of them are elderly and I don't get any emails. So what do you do follow up in that sense?
I mean, so I guess you have to understand that it is going to be less effective because email is a super convenient and easy way of reaching a bunch of people because you can customize it to a certain extent and send stuff out without having to do that work. So you're going to have to rely on the phone calls and mailings. So you need to tweak it accordingly, right? But if so Sue Anfang is in our office and she works at Scarborough. Sue works with a lot of seniors. I would not be surprised to find that Sue is much more focused on mailings and phone calls. She does a lot of events for seniors and stuff. So you definitely need to tailor it. All right, fill in the gaps. Find gaps in information, sort your database, complete plan. So this is another aspect, right? This is why if you've got, in command, you've got your database, you need to make sure that you have this information as much as possible because you're not going to be able to communicate it effectively. And that is an ongoing, so they say like feed your database, like add new people to it, but also you need to keep looking because you're like, okay, I've been emailing. So I've had clients, they're looking to buy. They get a Christmas card from me, they get mailings, they get emails and so forth. They obviously called me because they're like, good news, we're ready to buy. I'm like, great. So I went and met with them and I looked up their address and then just so I could talk about where they're renting right now. And I said very confidently, oh, you're on Aaron Mills. And they go, oh no, we haven't been there for years. I'm like, I haven't got anything back in the mail, but my Christmas cards, like they haven't got them. Right. And that's annoying. But this is like, you do realize as you get into it, when you're like, oh, I've still got your td.com email address and you haven't worked at TD for 4 years. Shit. You're not getting like, because people, again, we're not that important to them. Right. So it's not as if they're like, what happened? I was getting your weekly emails and now I don't get your weekly emails. And you're like, well, you moved jobs and I just had your work address. So it isn't, you gotta keep going back and filling the gaps. But in some cases, you might not be able to do all things. Some people, right? They're just not interested, right? So I think part of it can be like identifying if someone just doesn't have email or doesn't use email. That's one thing. If they don't want to give you your phone number because they don't call, you're like, then you need to develop a template and a script around to say, let me be clear. The only reason I need your phone, often there are things happening. So, like you need to figure out what this is for you. But if it's for me, I'd say, if there's an event coming up that I'd like to send you a ticket to or see if you're available, if I hear about something that I think is actually gonna be really relevant to you, then I'll call you. Don't worry, I'm not going to call you all the time. And they're like, okay, here's my phone number. But you need to figure out what the actual objection is, right? So if they don't want to give you their email because they never look at it or because they don't really use email, that's a valid objection for older people. If it's because they're like, well, I get so much email, it's not worthwhile. You're like, it's okay if you put it into a folder and you look at it on occasion, but this is what I send you. Whenever you're curious about, for example, for me, I'm whenever you're curious about what's going on in the market, I said once a month there's an email that talks about that. So I don't mind if you don't. I don't expect you. I said my mother would read that every week, right? I said you don't need to look at it all the time, but that's what it looks like. It's just an article about what we're seeing in the market, and once a month what's going on in the market, your market. Wouldn't that be interesting? They go, okay, that's good. Here's my email. So. Dave.
Do you do your own emails or do you have a third party that does that?
I write my own emails. So this is just because when I do the stats. So and I turn them into articles So I write, so all of these articles here are about, so things that I write. This is what I send a link out to my database, the Gearsmith database, where here's our latest article. And I talk about it a little bit in the email, but then I link to the website so that the website has the article on it that I wrote. But from the perspective of Kirsten's database, we wrote, right? So, does rent control actually make a difference? City of Toronto is introducing a new rate structure to its municipal land transfer tax. Here's why now is a good time to buy a condo. 3 things you need to do on the first day you move in. All of these topics, so these are all like once a week, right? I write these, but it's based on what I'm dealing with my clients. It's not that hard to come up with something if someone asks you a question, right? So like this one, so this is first day you buy in, right? Is the home safe and secure? Are the shackles and fixtures in working order? And I talk about what that means. What preventative maintenance tasks need to be done, right?
Does this all come out of your head, or you
I do some research, like, so this stuff up here, these things here, I didn't write that. I looked there, I was like, and then I find like a home inspector, and I'm like, here
Where
it
do you
is.
find this time to write these articles? I mean,
That was one of the first things, right? You gotta make time. I do it every Friday morning, so I'll do it tomorrow morning. I don't know what I'm gonna write about yet. Right? So, but I enjoy writing. Like, so this is the thing, right? Is this doesn't work if you don't enjoy writing. I enjoy writing, so it keeps. There's a lot of content that I put out there, but it means, so as an example, like, so I wrote about the rules on Airbnbs in Toronto. I wrote about that because I had someone ask me, and I was like, I guess I should be clear on it. I will sometimes, when I forget, I go back and read my own article. I'm like, oh right, that's how it is, right? But once you write it, so now when someone asks me and they're like, what should I do about this? I'm like, oh, okay, here. Let me send you a link to an article I wrote on this. I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time as well.
writing is not the issue. It's all the research you have to do.
Just makes stuff up wrong.
It's very good.
But
There's
that's
also,
I'm gonna look it up.
there's also ChatGPT, right? You
Yep.
can like ask a question, you can get lots of information, you can
Yep.
create an article by just like going
Yeah,
through
but
it.
if he's writing something, you can't just go to Google and start asking questions because a lot of those his answers will be incorrect. They're gonna hold him up to him. So he writes an article, it has to be correct. He's gotta make sure
course,
it's
yeah.
correct.
Do
Like
some
the rules of
research.
Airbnb, he has to be up to date. They may change.
Mhm.
So he could even get in trouble if he writes something that's incorrect. You have to be very careful. It takes a lot of work for him. It's not easy.
Yeah.
He makes it look easy.
but I mean, how do I have the time to? I'm like, because I haven't door knocked or cold called in years, almost a decade now, right? I just don't. So I've got other time, and so this is. You can choose to focus your business however you want. That's honestly the best thing about real estate, right? Is you don't have to so I have people who are like, I could never be a real estate agent. I hate working, I can't work on evenings and weekends because of my kids. And I'm like, then don't. Then partner with
I get it.
again, those are limiting beliefs that you're like, no, you need to be available 24/7. I'm like, oh, I'm going, on Saturday, I'm going to, driving with my mom to New Brunswick for a week. I've got a listing, an active listing. Right? I had another one, but it just sold. I've got, I'm like, but you teach your clients how to treat you. So I just don't get too, again, limiting beliefs and this is how it has to be. This is how a successful you're available 24/7 and you have to know everything about everything, as opposed to saying, oh, I don't know anything about that. If someone says, I want to buy a house in the country, and I'm like, not with me. I wouldn't do a good job. That's you say, can I refer you? Get a 25% referral fee? Sure. I mean, I know some good agents who work rural properties, but you don't have to do everything, right? So I think that is one of the biggest problems is you get people who think I've got to do all these things. I need to be an expert at stats. I need to be an expert at psychology. I need to understand condos as well as freehold homes. I need to know all of the neighborhoods and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, oh, I need to work with investors. I need to understand rent control. You're like, that's a lot. It's just a lot. And then as to your point, Rocco, it changes. So I would suggest for all of you, you can focus, right? You're like, no, this is what I'm really good at, and this is what I do. And then when people are like, oh, that's great. And then this is a bold bond, right? Where you focus on experience. If you're like, Well, I work with investors because I understand investors, or I work with people who are doing flips because I understand like whatever your particular interest is that you're actually interested in, you can write some guides to it on you want. You can put down some of your knowledge into a particular area. You don't have to like pick all sorts of different topics. You can just focus. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. We're not going to pair up. I'm going. I mean, I hope. Are you guys enjoying this so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very fun.
We're going. We're skipping some stuff, but I'm trying to make it interesting. So these are great examples of some connecting questions, right? So buyers, right? So what's prompting you? What's your time frame? What price range do you have in mind? Are you pre-approved, right? Do you own the place you're like, again, get out of your own mind if you're worried about being nosy. If you're worried about whether a question is they're gonna respond poorly about it, ask permission to ask the question. So if you want to know if they have enough money to buy, like do you have a down payment saved? And you're like, some people are like pretty private how much money I have in the bank. Others will tell you no problem, but some won't. So you can always start by saying, do you mind if I ask you a question about your finances? And if they go, yeah, I do mind. You go, okay. I'll talk about it in general, but I'm not going to ask you specifically because I don't want to offend you. Go ahead, Rafa.
If I had a listing, when I had listings and agent would present an offer, I would ask them those questions. Does your client have pre-approval? How much money down do they have? Do they have the amount for the deposit? And they said, I don't know, they don't want to tell me. You have to go.
There is,
And you have to, agent has to know the stuff, because if you bring me an offer, that deal falls through for financing, I'm going to sue. That's it. And I've done that. Well, not me personally, but the owner has sued the agent.
it is, we do have an obligation to not just take everything at face value. That's literally written into our code of ethics and so forth. But I did a commercial deal. I did a failed commercial deal with a client at the time where he bought like a $3 million commercial property and was conditioned on financing. Commercial financing takes a while, right? So it was a sort of, we had like I think 45-day sort of financing period for them to sort things out. As we were approaching the 40, my client was very uncommunicative, shifty in some ways, right? And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. As we were approaching the 45-day, I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm like financing, like, are you going to, and I said, are you going to be able to waive this condition? And he said, no, I need an extension. And I said, okay, well, what's going on? And he paused and he said, my lawyer told me I don't need to answer that question. And I said, what?
That's monkey business.
What are you talking about? I'm your agent. What are you talking about? And he didn't have the money. That was, I mean, I just still don't know for sure, but he didn't have the money and it was a mess. And the other agent on the other side, who is like a respected commercial agent that I've since had to deal with. And I was like, she's like, we can extend it. That's fine if he needs more time. I said, don't. I had no confidence going forward. And then I fired him as a client. Because it's great to have like a $3 million deal, but not great if it doesn't close, right? So asking these sorts of questions to learn, this is where you also identify red flags and things where you're like, this is someone who is not going to do a deal. This is someone who doesn't trust me or value my advice. Like all of these things, like you need to.
Yeah, if someone's not going to be upfront with you about how much you can put down as a deposit and giving you a confirmation from the bank about what they can get or what they should be looking at, like I wouldn't feel comfortable taking them on as a client. Like, am I too cautious, or is that the way
No,
you should approach it? Because some people, it's not like you really know them, right? Say if someone comes to you and say, okay, yeah, I want you to represent me, and you may not really know who they are.
Yeah, exactly. But you need to, the whole point of this is if you want to have a lasting career in real estate, as much as there's 70,000 real estate agents in Treb, a lot of them don't do very many deals. People come and go. And the ones like I've done multiple deals. I don't number of people on the call here will have as well. Sorry, 1 second. I've done a lot of deals with the same agents, right? Like you're like,
It's a
oh,
small world.
you're successful. You're active. Let's not even put it. You're an active agent who's doing deals. I'm an active agent who's doing deals. Oh, I've been doing it 13 years. Well, I know we encounter the same people again and again. And if I burn a bridge because they're like, oh yeah, Jeff, I remember him. He brought this client who was a terrible client. It made no sense. The deal fell apart, and Jeff was like, I don't know what's going on. And then I'm like, 3 years later, I'm like, hey, I want to buy your property. And he's like, oh, you again? Are you any better? Like, I mean, like, so yes, I think you protect your reputation. You ask these questions. You avoid, like, sometimes if we're being kind, some of these clients, they're not trying to screw things up. They're just coming at it from a perspective that's ill-informed. Maybe they're more hopeful than realistic. They're like, oh, that's fine. I'm sure I did this 2-minute thing online that says I can be approved for $1 million mortgage, but I didn't submit any documents. So I'm looking at $1 million places, and you're like, do you have a down payment? You're like, oh no, that's fine. And you're like, that's not the question I asked. Do you have a down payment? And you're like, do you have a pre-approval? No, I'm going to do that after. And you're like, okay, how long have you been in your job? I'm unemployed, but I used to work at this much, so it'll be fine. And you're like you yes, you need to ask those questions for sure.
Yeah.
I think being cautious and being professional.
I think that's part of FinTrack. You have to ask those questions.
You need
And
to
you have to have it in writing. If not, you're in trouble.
yes, for sure. When you do
By the
the
cops.
the individual identification form, you need to say where they work. Like you need some of it.
Yeah.
You need to track where the deposit comes from, but that's if like the deal. Excuse me, if the deal is moving forward. But yes, ask these questions. Know your people and look for red flags. And like this is the thing where you're just like, if they're like it's a $3 million property they want to buy, but they're showing up in like a beat down car and they're not dressed very well.
Oh, no.
I know that can be. Hey, I know that can be like you can be wealthy
The
people.
chicken man, we still call him.
I know, but still, like look for things like this, right? And you know, like you can do your own research, right? Like so, someone like because here's the thing is they don't want to talk about this. Well, we have access to the land registry. Put their name in. If you know, and if you're like, okay, they own this house in Rosedale, all right, off we go, right? But if you can't find anything, I'm just be cautious, I guess is what I'm saying.
So Jeff, if I have a buyer, I don't have to ask them all these questions until I have an offer and we're moving forward.
The best suggestion is you start off with this. You're like, how can you
Yeah,
do a
but
good
they
job
say
for them?
no,
If they say no, and
because we just met.
yeah, and then you say, okay, that's fair enough. I'm going to ask you again once you're a little more comfortable. Does that sound fair? And they go, okay, that's fine, Rocco. Like, you know, like you're like, you say, because I can't advise you unless I know your situation, right? So, and then you can also say, let me talk about like, so you're working with a buyer, you're like, this is a buyer representation agreement. I want to point out a couple of things to you. So this is not just to make sure you're working with me, it's that I'm working for you. Look at this bit here that says, I have to hold everything you say is confidential. Like, you know, like there's sections in there that you can reference to be like, I am your agent here. I will get in a ton of trouble if I disclose this. This is not something I will disclose. So get comfortable with that.
All right, thank you.
Sure. This is interesting. So number of agents interviewed before choosing an agent. So on the seller side, 74% just interviewed one agent, 15%, everybody else was 11%. So 3/4 just interview one agent. On the buyer side, 3/4 just one agent. This is, again, super useful if you're coming at it from the perspective of you're new or maybe you don't feel that experience. 75% of the time, you're the only person they talk to. If you get that appointment, if you're saying, let's do a buyer consult, let's do a listing presentation, 75% of the time, it's just you.
Yeah.
So like you need to be trustworthy. They need to feel that you're going to look after their best interests. It is not like, you know, if you're in a tight market, like where you lots of competition and so forth. But one reason I made a big deal about how I don't discount my commission. I will say that a big part of that is because of how I get my clients. I don't have a billboard. I don't get calls from people who don't know who I am, who don't trust me. It's either repeat or it's a referral where they're like, Alexander said you're the best. I have to work with you. Come sell my house. And I'm like, okay. And then 2.5%, they're like, okay. Like so. It is if you're constantly in competition because of how you get your business, then you will probably be more likely they're interviewing a couple of agents, right? So, and there you need to be really clear on your value proposition, right? Because you are going to get pushback because if you have 2 or 3 agents, probably one of them is willing to discount their commission. Connect with every lead. Speed matters. Even if you only have a minute, call the lead. This is very true. I have a client. So they were doing a flip in Brampton. There was this guy. I'll use my star thing and be a little bit better here. Situation was this. I got a call from Chris. Chris was the boyfriend of a woman whose house I sold. Chris knew I was a real estate agent. He liked how I sold her house. He gave me a call. He said, "Hey, Jeff, I work with some guys. We just did a flip property in Brampton. Do you want to maybe come talk to them about what it'd be worth and what it would look like if we sold it with you? Because you did a good job with that." And I said, "Yes." And I called him. I got that voicemail message and I called him back. And went to the evaluation, spoke with him, got a listing, sold it. They had an agent who bought that property for like 6 months ago. They'd called her twice, no answer. After a week, he called me and I called the same day and he's like, "Yours." So yes, speed matters, right? Like when it comes to real estate, people will make other decisions in that. And you need to show that you're eager, that you're interested, and so forth, right? So I absolutely agree with that one. Identify the motivated, able, ready, and willing, set an appointment. Again, this is part of it. If someone says, if you say, they're like, "I'm interested in selling my house," and you go, "Great, let me look up some information. I'll do a bit of evaluation, then I come and meet with you. Is Tuesday better or is Thursday better?" And they go, "Actually, this is September's pretty October, maybe early November." They're not motivated, right? Like you could lose these people. Like if you do your work and then the market shifts. So you need to ask these questions before you sort of get into it, because sometimes people are curious, but this gets back to that. How's the market? What do you think my house is worth? Is another one. People like you talk when I don't have people be like, "What do you think my house?" Even at parties, people are like, "Oh, I've got a detached house in this area. What do you think it's worth?" And I say, "Or are you thinking of selling?" And they go, "Oh no." And I go, "And I don't know." Like I'm like, but because to answer that question properly, it takes time. And what if I was like, or I will find out. Let me do my workup. I do evaluation. It takes me about 3 hours to do this work privately. Like personally, this is when I do mine. This takes me about 3 hours to do this. It's pretty impressive, but it takes me time. And then if they're like, "Okay, cool, thanks," and you're like, "So do you think that you'd be?" Oh, like, "Oh no, we're not. We're just curious." Like that's okay. That's fine.
Just comparing it to what another person told them.
Oh, it's just whatever they're seeing, and then what their neighbors like. Like I get it. You want that information, and you can argue that you're like, this is how you can turn this into something positive by saying, "We're not ready. Oh, we were just curious." And you're like, "Great. Were you impressed by this? Or you thought this was useful?" They, "Oh, this is really great. This is great stuff." You go, "Rocco, if you've got a friend or a family member or a colleague who needs a real estate agent, will you say, 'Jeff does this tremendous work and you need to talk to him about how much your house is worth'?" And you go, "Yes." And I go,
But Jeff, when you do that valuation for them, do you tell them over the phone or you insist on going to their house to present it?
I do it in person. Because whenever I've not had a chance to present, it's just someone
They're using it.
shape. Yeah. Like I've lost, I sold a house on Degrassi, and then like the neighbor across the way was like, "Oh, we saw it and you did a good job. Like how much is worth?" But then I met the guy and he's like, "Well, my sister's a real decision maker." And then he couldn't hear back from anybody.
You didn't lose anything you never had.
Yeah, exactly. But they used mine and then they sold it. All right. Probably it's custom. Yeah. Communicate with your database. So this is what they talked about. We talked about the 33 touch or 36 touch, I guess there. So 19 to connect, 4 touches, so quarterly phone calls, 12 touches, monthly emails, newsletters, micro reports, videos. If you're not good at writing, but you're comfortable on doing a video, that's a high sort of impact way of doing something. You're just because you could do that as well. You don't want to write an article about it, but you say like, "Hey, how you doing? I've been getting a lot of questions from people about, what's going on with this. This is my take on it. If you got any more questions, let me know." Like, and then you can send that in an email or put it on our website. 2 touches, promotional direct mail, such as a magnet calendar, printed market report, etc. 1 touch, annual event, party, movie, screening, get together. So that's 19 to connect, 36 to convert, 4 touches, the telephone calls, 26 bi-weekly emails, 2 touches, events, get-togethers, and then 4 promotional direct mail. And then 1 to cement, the high-value touch that solidifies a relationship you've just established and opens the door for future interactions. So that is kind of a key point. You can have a lot of shallow touches, like that aren't really deep, or you can have like fewer deeper ones, right? So as an example, if I call someone once a quarter, hey, just checking in, how are things going? Oh, good, everything's great. I'm just actually heading out. Okay, no worries, good to talk with you, bye. That's pretty shallow. Even if I'm like, how are things? How are the kids? Good, 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 good. That's pretty shallow, as opposed to if I'm like, we get a coffee and we talk for an hour and they tell me about how, you know, they just got let go of work and they're dealing with this. Like, we get into stuff. That's a meaningful connection. So you can choose. You don't have to choose one or the other. But there are people who are like, no, I am. And you can think about this with friends as well, right? That you see casually, regularly, and you say, we're pretty good. We stay in touch because we know what's going on because we see each other all the time. Versus ones you only see once in a blue moon, but it's for like 3 hours. You really get into things, right? Which one is a better friend? Well, one is more a regular friend, but it's arguable which is sort of a better friend. So just as you think about whatever format you want to follow and staying in touch with people, think about like whether you want it to be a lot of shallow sounds wrong, a lot of more casual contacts or sort of deeper, meaningful.
I think of it as a funnel. You throw everything in and then something's gonna come up that's what you want.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Cultivating, so cements relationship, maintains mind share. I think the mind share thing is something, again, so what did Jeff have to say at the ship class? He kept talking about how nobody cares about him, how he's very unimportant in people's minds. I do think that the mind share, I have a number of friends who, if you put me on the spot and said, what is his job title? I'd be like, ooh. He works in banking. Capital markets, that's a thing, right? He's in capital markets. Well, you're like, but I don't know what he does. Like, you know, like in the, like, you know, and similarly, we think, like, people kind of think, well, they understand what real estate agents are, but like they, like, particularly if they know you in some other capacity, they're like, how's it going? How's the appraisal business going? That must be hard right now with the market. And you're like, if you're like, no, I'm an agent. I'm focused on, like,
Yeah, that's
like,
what I'm getting now.
yeah, but this is the thing, right? Is don't assume that everybody remembers everything about you. Like, so now that I've been doing this 13 years, most of my sphere knows about that. But, you know, like, I still occasionally will have people who are like, what are you up to now, man? And I'm like, obviously I'm not in touch with them, right? Those are more but like, I mean, we did our MBA together and like, we had, you know, he's like, you were doing that consulting business. I was like, yeah, that was 8 years ago. Sure. Right. Like, so, the mind share, that's why, like, being reminded on a regular basis. I prefer the high quality, or like these customized, like I write these articles and so forth, but there's a lot of studies out there that show just seeing your name, regardless of what it's around, reminds them and sort of establishes them who you are. So like these mail outs, right? That goes through a marketing company, but the content I customize based on what I have on my website. I don't have to do that, but I've chosen to do that each month. This targets a different sort of people who like ignored my email, or they don't get my email, or they unsubscribe from my email, which sometimes happens. They get these mailings. So if you are willing to invest in any sort of marketing, that can be effective. So I had a MAPS coach, Keller Williams, their MAPS coaching program, one a few years ago that really made the point about how here's how it works: is the first time they see my name, they're like, Jeff. Like, so they see my marketing, they're like, Jeff, never heard of him, don't know who he is. Second time, they're like, I think he's in it, real estate agent. Third time, they're like, yeah, he's a real estate agent. Fourth time, this is without any signs or sales, and just getting marketing material. Fourth time, they're like, oh yeah, he works a lot around here. Fifth time, yeah, he does a lot of business here. Sixth time, he's like, yeah, this is his area. Seventh, you're like, yeah, everybody hires him. That's just like 7 points, but it takes 7 points to go from no idea who that is to be like, yes. And so if you talk with anyone who does door knocking and combines it with marketing, they will say that they knock on the door when they've done the marketing and people are like, oh, hey, hi, Dan. And Dan doesn't know, Dan hasn't met them, but they know who Dan is because they've received all of this stuff from Dan.
Yeah, there's a couple agents in my neighborhood that do that because they must spend a ton of money on marketing material, like full out market stats with their, like, everyone knows who they are. But again, they probably have majority of the listing because of that, but I should always check that. But it's constant. And then it's like, yeah, then you see them walking on the street and you're like, oh, that's so-and-so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I got door knocked yesterday at my house by an agent. And I was like, he gave me a bag, like a grocery bag. And then I let him start a spiel. And I said, just to let you know, I said, I'm a broker with Keller. It's good for you. I mean, like, we had a nice chat. I was like, you want your bag back? But yeah, people do. Yeah. And then, so in my neighborhood, I'm up in Parkers and all the, Karen Miller is a real estate team that's up there. And she's got like purple, like she's an older lady with like a purple streak in her hair at the front.
She's really good.
I saw her at my grocery store and her hair needed to be done again. The purple was quite faded. So I was like, oh, that's Karen.
She's very good person.
I don't know her personally.
Years ago when I was selling that, she'd walk into my open houses and she would give me advice. She's a wonderful lady. She's
that's good. She's got a good
I forgot
reputation.
what I was gonna say. Oh yeah. Talking about stats. A lot of agents, they send out these stats like flyers and they don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah.
This one guy brought me a stat, like he was an agent. He brought me the stat. I said, can you explain this? And he started yapping away. Meanwhile, I know this kid doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yep.
I said, thank you very much.
Just a question. How much does it cost? Like, I try to do that, but for now, I don't want to like spend a lot of money. I do it just when I'm door knocking. How much it costs to mail things for, let's say, 1,000 people in a month?
I don't have a good answer to that because I don't do mass marketing. This is all to my database. I can tell you this is the bill for client opening. So this is the.
I was gonna say it looks like a bill, but I don't.
So this is a focus one, but it's to 68 people and it costs $142. Like, so it's specific. Like this one says dear value client, but it's got their name. So like, this is just Morris Marketing. This is just the company, right? So,
Do you mind if I get a
sure.
look at
Yeah, of course. Yeah, happy to. All right, we're doing terrible on time. So I hope everybody's enjoying it. They soon laughing at. I think this is a great quote from Shift. Without an appointment, conversion hasn't happened, right? So like this is the whole, like this is, you say, I've got a lot of clients, and you're like, clients are people who pay, right? And you're like, oh, I don't have a lot of clients then, right? Like, so like you need to, at the end of the day, like this is the joy and the pain of our industry. And it's why another bit about compensation, right, is certainty, right? Like we work with people, we list a home for sale. Will it sell? Maybe. Do agents sometimes fail to sell and get fired? Yes. You work with a buyer, will they buy? Maybe. Do the buyers sometimes change their mind or not buy with you? Yes. Like we don't get paid until the deal is closed, right? Even then, sometimes we don't. So I do think it's important to remember whenever anybody talks to you, and Barb had a great sort of line about this, like about commission, where like people are like, is your commission negotiable? And she's like, what do you do for a living? And they say, she says, do you like to get paid for what you do? This Barb. and they go, yeah. And she goes, so do I. I mean, I'm good at it. And like, no, that's what I get paid.
Can I add my latest experience with this?
Of course, Mason.
I had a very good client. I know him for so many years. And because I asked him, because I saw how reluctant he is, one day he wants to rent, one day he wants to sell, one day he's just want to try. The minute I told him, you'll have to pay me if we try to sell and you change your mind, he just called someone else. and he's a very faithful like person who's been like with me for so long. The minute he knew he has to pay for my photos, for my staging, for all of this, he screwed up somebody else.
Huh. Wow, that's and I mean, you dodged a bullet there, is my thinking of it.
Well, yeah. So be careful. Like lately, I've been seeing lots of just clients want to try. Also, buyers, they just want to see if they are, even if they're qualified, they just want to look at properties. So they're just curious. So even if with it being an experienced person and I can really read the people and they're sometimes referred, I'm still seeing people are just really not really decisive on what they want to do in the market. So
Yeah.
just
That's a great. No, it's a great cautionary tale.
yeah.
And similarly, like when you talk about buyers, like I've had some buyers who I say we have a conversation, then I'm like, this is what it's like working with me. So you need to sign a buyer representation agreement. And they go, oh, I don't want to sign that. And I go, why not? And there's very few reasons. Like one genuine reason I think is we just met. I don't know if I like you, and I'm like, okay, like I will agree with that. Like I'll take you out once. Like I'll give you a sense of how I work. And if you're not interested after that, no harm, no foul. But otherwise, but sometimes you're like, no, I will work with you. I mean, whoever finds me the property, I will work with them. And I'm like, that's congratulations, good luck. You have fun with that. I am not going to be one of 6 agents working for you. We're all looking at mostly the same data. So yeah, these are the red flags that you start to see around people who don't value what you're bringing to the table, right? And that's there's scripts around how to change people's minds and so forth, and you can get into it or not, your choice, but it is a red flag.
But you can't blame them. If you guys just met, it's not that person's fault that they don't want to.
No, but he's talking more about the one that wants all 6 agents to work to be searching for properties.
No,
for them.
that I know what it means. But you could tell afterwards, like if it's email me the listings and I will review them.
So yeah, so we talked about the go for the close, right? So, and we chatted about the different types of closings and how aggressive you need to be. So, the hard close, let's meet. Soft close, I really enjoyed visiting you. Would you like to get together to discuss this further? Direct, can we meet today? Indirect, would it be okay if I got you some information to look over it? Then can we meet to discuss? The trial, have we gone over enough today that meeting would be our next step? Assumptive, it sounds like we should be. I'm available most times this week, so what works best with you? The negative positive, would you be offended if I asked if we could meet to go over this? The take back, I've really enjoyed visiting with you. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can be a help or not, but I'd be honored if we could meet to find out. The tie down, wouldn't it make sense for us to meet in the next day or so? The alternative choice, what works better for you? Meeting today, sometime this afternoon, or tomorrow morning? Which one, I'm really curious, of those 10, which one are you most comfortable with, that you could picture yourself saying that you feel comfortable about?
I choose 2.
2?
Like that's the way
I've really enjoyed visiting. Would you like to get together to discuss this further? Okay. I don't think any of these are wrong. I mean, obviously, they're just different ways.
I use all of these.
Yeah, depends on the situation.
Do you use them all at once, very soon? All at once?
Depends who I'm talking to, but if I would say all of these. Depends who I'm talking to. Like I'm comfortable with all.
Okay, good.
That's nice.
I would say the same thing. You would use all of them depending on the situation, where
Yeah.
you are, who you're talking to, all that kind of stuff.
Where did you get this from, Jeff? It's nice.
Shift.
Yes, the book, right?
And I think we're gonna post this the link to this on the Facebook. So that's what Carlos was saying. So it's material. I mean, I will say that as we talked about earlier, all of these are closes. All of these are asking questions, right? So the take back close is the only one that is not a question, right? I really enjoyed visiting with you. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can be helpful or not, but I'd be honored if we can meet to find out. That's more of a statement. But so I would suggest that maybe that one should be like, do you think we should meet to find out? And if they go no, then you're like, all right, off we go. Like, but the answer to any of these can be none, right? Let's meet. No, actually, that's another question. But you like, it is about actually asking, trying to close here, right? Not just like if you imagine any of these, like the soft close. If Rocco, if he said, I really enjoyed visiting with you, and they said, me too, Rocco, and you said, have a good day. That's not a quote, right? That's being polite, right? That's right. So it just keep in mind that this is got to be, you've got to be able to actually ask the question. Otherwise,
I like your dating analogy. Like when you just said that, like you're not going on a date with
Yeah.
that person.
Yeah.
Like, so
Mm,
that was from like 2 hours ago.
yeah, it's good you remember. So this is in shift on page 102. So learn how to respond, let the conversation take its natural course. There is all those old sayings, you got one mouth and two ears, listen more than you talk. And as a real estate agents, we do tend to talk an awful lot. I'm case in point. I try and make sure that in listening presentations, when I'm having conversations with people, I am listening and giving them a chance to talk and to express their opinions. So if they don't, then they won't. That's okay. You really don't care what answer it ultimately is, because you're not going to be getting people to do anything they don't want to do. Again, this is part of it. There's all sorts of great books around this, and different sort of people who talk about how to close and how to move things forward. But if you coming from contribution, you're not trying to if someone doesn't want to sell, you're not trying to convince them to sell. If someone is like, I do want to sell, then you're like, okay, then you want to sell. I'm going to explain to you why I'm the right person for the job. But you want to sell. If they're like, I don't want to sell, and you say, great, I'm going to tell you why I'm the right person for the job. And they're like, there is no job. And you're like, right. So I've been in the business for this many, and they're like, what are you doing? So it does come from understanding where the conversation is going. It is, so I often do, in most cases, I do my listing presentation on my own. When I think about people who are on teams or husband-wife couples and so forth who are always there together, that's easier in a number of ways, because one person can be talking, the other person can be watching, right? And when one person, so when the person who's talking says something and you see the wife go, right? And then the other person is like, hold on a second. I feel like maybe that's not something you're comfortable with. You can respond to it, as opposed to if it's just you, it is the juggling act, right? As I say, I'm almost always on my own, but it is hard because you're going through and you're sort of watching, whether it's a husband or wife or family or whatever it is, to recognize when something is not important to them. I often, when I go through my listing presentation, I will start with to say, there's a lot of stuff in here. I said, I'm going to leave this document with you. I'm going to go through some key points, but I want to start by asking, I said, there's really three components, for how I do my job: price it properly, market it effectively, negotiate it aggressively. Which one are you most interested in? Do you want to hear about how much your home is worth and how come I've come to that conclusion? Do you want to hear about the marketing that we do to try and get people in to make it look as appealing as possible? Or do you want to hear about the negotiating approach? What do you consider most important? What do you want to start with? And that's a great way. If they say marketing, then I know that I can gloss over some of the pricing side of things, because they're like, are you correct? Is this pricing right? And I'm like, it is. I have a story, and this is the right pricing. They're like, okay, tell us how you're going to market it, because those people will make their decision based on whatever's important to them. Sometimes they're like, that's fine. Yeah, marketing. I know all you guys do the same marketing. You're like, well, we do things a little differently, but okay, I'll give you that there are some similarities. And they go, pricing, it's easy. My condo, blah blah blah. But they're like, I want to hear about how you negotiate, because that's where people really make money. They'll have some of their own preconceived notions about what's important. So always, let the conversation go its natural way. Don't be too focused on your these are the things that I'm interested in talking about, because at the end of the day, people just turn off, right? So if you're talking about something that they don't really care about, and they're not listening, and and you don't get enough time to talk about the things that matter. So you really do have to focus on what's important. Track your level of conversion. So this is similar to what I said about Tom Mitchell, right? So they knew he was about 50%. So he'd get all these listing appointments, about half of them he'd close, which you could argue is pretty good, but it's pretty terrible in the market they were in, because they had a good reputation, but Tom just kept screwing it up. So they were like, let's send in someone who gets a higher percentage. So you need to know your conversion, because this gets into how much work you need to do. If you need to meet 20 people in order to have one listing appointment or one consult, a buyer or listing appointment, all right, get to it, right? If you say, how many people have you met this month? You're like 10. You're like, all right. You know, like, you know exactly where your numbers are going to be if your conversion rate is lower. Similarly, you know, appointments to sign agreement. You get in there and they meet you, but they don't hire you. You can't, you're not done, right? So like, you're like, I'm proud of myself. I got out and I did my lead gen, whatever my lead gen looks at. I'm proud of myself because I got someone to agree to have a meeting. I'm proud of myself because I got that person to agree to let me work as their listing agent or to help them buy. And I'm proud of myself because I help the buyer sell. Like, but it's a long path there, and you can't get too comfortable to say, I've done a great job. I'm going to take next week off, right? Because you're like, well, where are your conversion ratios? All right. Ahas, any ahas? I think this is the end of our first one. We're going to zoom through the last one. How are you guys doing? Woo! You okay? I mean, I know we're technically till 2. Does anybody need to leave earlier?
I had a question from your previous slide.
Yep.
I'm just curious because, you know, we do business almost the same, me and you, repeat and referrals. I wonder what events you've been doing, if you don't mind sharing.
No, I mean, I'm happy to share because it's quite simple. I've been doing none. I've never really, I like, honestly, Maysoon, it's something that's on my list of things to do. I've done a lot of like one-on-one, like coffees and going for drinks, and I invite people to, like, you know, whether like one of a kind show or like the home show, like that's not my event. But I haven't really gotten into doing group events. So I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of good insight into that. I think it's a very effective way of having deeper conversations and connecting with people, seeing them. It's also a great chance, you know, if you come to an event and you're like, and there's like, look, there's like 30 people here who all think Jeff is wonderful or Maysoon is wonderful, then that's great because it reinforces. You're like, yeah, everybody's like, oh yeah, this is our agent, top agent, perfect, right? So it can be really effective. I just haven't done it, basically.
When you get an idea, please let me know.
Okay.
Because I've done almost like everything I could think of. I'm just like out of ideas. It doesn't have to be like we have to do events. I do a lot of one-on-one, and it's so much time consuming, although you go like deep with the relationship, but it's so much time consuming when you have like a long past clients list.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. I do think you need to find sort of pain points, or like, you know, like for example, when people like everybody is, as an example, this is just an idea, Maysoon, but you know, people are like, oh, you know, like selling's not a great opportunity for me right now. Prices have gone down, but also our home doesn't really work for us anymore, so we want to renovate. If you did a seminar on like where you worked with, whether it was like a home inspector that can talk about like the average lifespan of most things in a house, or like a contractor, like you gather information about this is what this is the return on investment. You know, like if you do a kitchen, like you can. I would think something like that you might be able to get people who are like, that's cool. I mean, Maysoon, we're not going to sell anytime soon, but we do need to redo our kitchen, and we're maybe considering adding X or Y to the house.
okay, have you been able to generate? You're a great person in numbers. Generate a quick CMA, like quicker than like not a detailed, something like very easy to just like send a one short email that have anything to do only on their neighborhood. That's very effective, like fast. CMAs are so long.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm working on something Maysoon, but it's because what I do is, I mean, it's great for a listing presentation, but I want to get into like, you know, once per year, just sending evaluation to people.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on it. How about this? When I get my first draft, you and I'll sit down because I'd love for your opinion on it. Because I mean, it's easy to like you know razzle dazzle, but if you look at it and you're like, that's so I'll work on it. And we'll touch
Yeah,
base.
I'll be happy to put our heads together. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. All right, guys. You guys. All right. End of it. All right, we'll come back in just 1 second, guys. I'm just going to ask Carlos how to switch to the next session, which we'll try to move through pretty quickly. So just 2-minute break.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Alrighty. We'll get started shortly, guys, with the next session, which we'll try and move through pretty quickly, but give us 2 more minutes and then we'll get going. All right, we're gonna keep going because we're running out of time here. Sure these guys will be back shortly. Okay.
Like they want to kick it, then they put on the air conditioning.
Oh. It's funny. All righty. So next we're going on to, so that was all about lead conversion and follow-up. And now we're going to talk about helping buyers and sellers adjust, in particular resetting expectations. This is something that's very relevant right now because you have all sorts of people who are operating on outdated assumptions. So get into it. Okay, so here's this one quote. So the ability to learn faster than your competitors may be the only sustainable competitive advantage. This is something, what this, for us, how it boils down to is, if you're still talking about the market that is no longer in existence, it doesn't take too long before the people who are listening start saying, what are you talking about? If you say, oh yeah, now is a tremendous time to sell. Everything is going for great prices and prices have never been higher. And you go, didn't I just read that the average price has dropped for the last 3 months in Toronto? And they go, oh, yeah, no, I mean, not, yeah, that's true. Like you need to learn, you need to stay up to speed on what's going on. And this is where you can differentiate yourself from other agents if you're actually paying attention to what's going on. So I'll remind everybody once a month, Trev puts out their market watch, right? Which is, you'll get the emails. It's around 7th, maybe the 5th or the 7th of the month. You'll know it's come out because all of the media stories start coming out about like, September's real estate market, blah, blah, blah. Like it's always around that time. That's where all of the newspaper headlines come from. It's because Trev puts out their market watch with the latest stats. Read it. Take a look at it. It's not like you just get a sense of what's going on. Conversely, I do this market review. It's a little bit later because I have to do mine, but you're welcome. That's typically around the 2nd or the latest 3rd Tuesday of the month where I go through what's going on in the market.
So Jim, that's your own private one that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
I remember I see that a couple of months ago.
Yeah. So that's,
How do I see yours?
yeah. So if you go to my website and click on market, and then I do it for all of the Trev areas, but this is, so the Toronto one. So this is just August because we don't have September yet. But so this is where like number of sales, right? Like it's just a different format. It's the exact same information. I get all of this info from Trev.
It's easier to read.
But I talk about it and what does it mean? So it's the 3 questions, right? So what happened? How did it feel if you're buying or selling? And what's going to happen next? So, but this
Those
is
are always your 3 main questions.
Yep. So, but this is the thing is, so when I talk about like the average sale price, like what, like, so you see here, so in May, the average price was about 1.2, right? And then it dropped to 1.15, and it dropped to 1,062, and now we're at 1,000,005, right? So it's gone down by 189,000 in 3 months. Yeah,
When you say residential data, you mean all types of,
this is Toronto, specific to
all types
Toronto,
of properties?
all types of properties.
Okay.
Right? So, but yes, this is the sort of thing. You need to keep up to speed with what's going on because yes, it is in a shifting market. Forget about sounding like a fool. If you advise your clients poorly, you tell your buyer clients something that is no longer accurate for this type of market, this housing type, and so forth, or you tell seller clients, no, I can get you more, or that's a great price when in fact it is not. Like this is literally like this is where we're adding the value, right? Is by understanding the market. And if you're working all the time, you get a good sense of it. But even if you're not actively working with buyers and sellers, you gotta stay up to speed. You gotta look at listings in the area. You gotta review stuff to get a sense.
But Dave, Jim, when you're using that graph, the general market, you have to be careful what neighborhood you're talking to.
Oh yeah, no,
You
that's
can't go
just
to Rosedale and say,
general.
because Rosedale always keeps going up.
sure. So it is very
General.
specific. So housing type, price points, and geography, those are all very much very different. So yes, that's always the caution. But understand that everything that the general public is seeing are averages, right? And often they're not even Toronto averages. They're like, oh, I hear that the average price has gone down or gone up, and you're like, that's in Canada as a whole. So sure.
That's
But
my
if you want to buy in Manitoba, awesome.
I mean, if you go to do a presentation and you say the prices have gone down 10%, meanwhile, the guys in Leslieville, so wait a minute.
Yeah,
I wish
that's
there was-
you always have to place it in context.
I
For
wish
sure.
there was data to throw in.
There is.
But you'd have to make it yourself, that there is.
Yeah, but I mean, the market, so the market watch reports, it doesn't go down to the community level, but it does go down to like EO1.
Yeah,
EO2,
either one,
and
but I'm at the community level.
Yeah, I mean, there is, yeah.
But you can even
Okay.
dissect it even further, because I think in that same report, they said that there was more condos that sold than freeholds. So that could make the price lower also, like, but it's a general thing, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more than half of the units that are for sale in Toronto right now are condos. So it's a great point. It's just, but you need to keep alert of what's going on, right? So,
Yeah.
So here's what's going on in the market in general, but it is like, so it is very specific, like to be able to say a specific number, you would say, how's the market? And you go, well, it's a complicated question. I'll say like, but if I'm going to say to somebody, so you said, you live here in Toronto, and they go, yeah. I go, well, on average, the average price in Toronto has gone down consecutively. Like for the last 3 months, it's gone down every month. And we're now down $189,000 compared to May. That's a very specific point, which they're like, wow. And they're, you know what you're talking about. And they're like, so is my house worth? And you're like, no. That's the market as a whole. That includes everything. That includes the Rosedale mansions, and the, Liberty Village first time condos, like it includes everything. So I said, are you interested in selling? Like we can get into, I can answer, I need to look into it though for your specific one. And people are like, the right people are like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So I definitely 100% agree with this idea that it's a competitive advantage if you're aware of what's going on. That's why they trust us, right?
When I used to do presentations, I never brought pieces of paper with me. Just spoke, but I knew the neighborhood very well.
There we go. Okay, so here we go. 3 things we're going to nail in a brief amount of time. Easy. Energize sellers, energize buyers, and then bulletproof the transaction. Right? Let's get into it. Get real. Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls. It looks like work. I mean, this is true, right? Like we have there's another quote about opportunity, which is or like luck is when opportunity and hard work connect, right? Like you need to actually do the work here. But in any market, there are opportunities, but it just you need to do some work, right? So as I've gone through a couple of tremendous sellers markets, I thought about I really need to go. This is not my pitch, door knocking, but the people who have homes with inherent problems, like you're right beside a commercial area, you're backing onto garbage bins, or like fundamental flaws. In a tremendous seller's market, you can get really good prices for those properties because people just can't afford anything else. As soon as it's balanced, or God forbid, a buyer's market, people are like, I don't want to live right next to the street. I'll buy the house 6 doors up because it's a much nicer sort of feel. So there are opportunities, and you can identify those people, and then you just need to convince them, right? That's one example of what it looks like when you go out and actually find people in this current market. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this before, the 6 personal perspectives. Is it something that you guys are familiar with? So let's see if it goes into specifics. Yeah. So commit to self-mastery. So this is when you decide you're going to take on mastering yourself, right? That you're going to take the challenge on, effectively lead yourself and direct where you're going, right? Mastery is excelling at something, right? So that's fine. You can be really good at stats, but on its own, it's not as much value unless you're like, no, I am going to not just know stats, but I'm going to understand how to explain it. I'm going to understand what it means for me, what it will mean for my clients. When you combine the 2 things, that's when you start to get sort of some real benefit. And I think you can think of people who, it's not just that they know things, but they know how to place it in context. They know why it's useful, right? So there's the old joke about like intelligence is knowing it's raining, but wisdom is knowing you should get out of the rain, right? So let's go through some of these buyers' mindsets. They may believe one or more of the following: I've got choices, or I can't afford to buy. I've got negotiating power. I can't buy now because interest rates are too high. Well, it's so familiar. Prices may continue to go down. That's very familiar. I'm going to miss out again. I have plenty of time to look and buy. I can offer whatever I want and ask for whatever I want. Oh, that's good. Those are fun ones. I must buy quickly before rates go up any higher. these resonate with you? Have you guys heard this sort of talk or sort of seen that out in the marketplace? Which ones do you think right now people are saying?
Oh, can't buy now because of rates. Sure, and
I can't.
and
afford-
maybe in a couple of months it'll be I must buy quickly before rates go any higher.
There is, so this is again, it's very specific to market, price point, location. And housing type. I feel like there's been a slight uptick in buyer activity recently. So the Bank of Canada overnight rate announcement on September 6th. They did not adjust the prime, the overnight rate, which means that variable interest rates did not rise for the first time in a while. The latest talk in terms of what pundits are saying is that it's not likely to increase again. And, but they may keep it at this rate until like 2024. This changes all the time, but it is like, as we get into October, we're going to see some more stuff. But all of this leads into buyer sentiment, whether buyers live in the future, sellers live in the past, right? So buyers are always like, what if I buy and prices go down? Like that's a constant thing. Prices may continue to go down. The more comfortable they start to get that, they hear the two things that, money is not going to get more expensive. So they go, okay, that was the thing I was worried about, that even if I could afford now, interest rates are going to keep going up. So they go, okay, that's not that bad. And then they see that that prices seem to have stabilized. That's when you get like buyers. We have such an interesting mindset, all of us as humans, where we're like, prices are rising. When, in the last few years, you're like, they will always keep going up. If I buy this month, if I overpay, it's fine, because by next month it'll be more. We're just like, it'll always continue. And then as soon as it starts going down, prices will always keep going down. This is how people think until it's changed. So I do feel like we're seeing a bit of a resurgence now. That's just my personal sort of experience. I don't know whether we'll see the stats show up in terms of what happens in September, but it feels a little bit busier now. Like I've seen some uptick in sort of the listings that I have. Like I sold one that had been on the market for months for a reasonable price because we sort of held firm, but it was a long ride. All right, seller's mindset. And we believe one or more of the following: my property is worth more than other comparables. It can be sold as is without bringing it up to acceptable standards. Lots of marketing and open houses will sell my home. I can't sell my home for what I need or want. I won't be able to buy when I sell my home. It'll take too long to sell my home. I don't want to have to fix everything. Which one of those do you think, or which ones do you think are most prevalent right now?
Maybe the first one, because people are still stuck in like it's 2021. Right?
It's still stuck 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think, they're I can't sell my home for what I need or want. So I remember a lawyer friend of mine saying, when everybody's making money in real estate, everything is fine. As soon as people start losing money, everybody gets sued. Because this is the thing, right? So say you help someone buy or sell their property. Let's see. You help someone buy a property, and you're like, it was a hot market, and we had to bid a crazy amount, and you're like, wow, maybe I overpaid. But a year later, at about the same time they discover the basement leaks, they're like, oh, the neighbor down the street, he's sold for $300,000 more. They're like, okay, I'm doing all right. It was a smart choice. And I'm not going to sue you, even though maybe I was a little concerned. Maybe you should have noticed something X or Y or whatever. It's when you start to get into where people are like, I shouldn't have paid this much. And I've had clients jokingly say that to me. They're like, how did you let me buy this place? And I was like, don't even start. You were the one who made the decision. I blah, 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 right? Because they're like, now the mortgage rates are going up, and they're like, oh my God, it's so expensive, blah, blah, blah. So I do think that when we get into a time where it is possible to lose money in real estate, that's where real estate agents get sued. In particular, if you're an agent who has only dealt with one market where everything is always going up, and you're like, don't worry about it, it'll be worth more next month. And I've literally heard agents talk like that. Like, that is not always true, right? And this is the sort of thing where understanding what's going on in the market is hugely important.
I hear that a lot. Like, I won't be able to buy if I sell my house.
I feel like, so that is something that was a very common refrain. I don't think it's something we've heard as much in the last 3 to 6 months, because I think now they're more focused on, like, yeah, but I wanted to sell my home for more, and so there is, the way the math works is pretty simple. If the market is dropping and you are upgrading, moving up the property ladder or to a more expensive home, it works to your benefit in theory, right? So you say you sold for $100,000 less than what you could have 3 months ago. You're upset about that. However, you're buying a home that you're able to buy for $200,000 less than what you would have had to pay 3 months ago. So you're doing okay. If you're selling and you're not buying, or you're selling and you're going to another market, or you're selling and you're going to a different price point that has a different sort of market dynamics, then it isn't always the case. But in general, if you're moving up the property ladder, it's okay if the market is taking a bit of a tumble, because you're like, that's great. If you're moving down the property ladder, if you're downsizing, you don't want that. You're like, because you say, that's great. I sold my house for $100,000 less, and then I bought this, townhouse. I bought this condo. Yeah, I paid $30,000 less, but geez, I just lost 70 grand. And you're right, right? So it depends on their situation. It's not always which market is best. It's like, well, what are you doing? If you're leaving the market completely, if you're a renter and you're buying a house, even not even a low end, but like a decent sized house or home at a good price point, and the market is taking a tumble, you're thrilled, because there is no negative, right? You're like, yeah, I paid $200,000 less than I would have 3 months ago.
Certainly, I think this is maybe related to my demographic again, like elderly people, and they say, okay, where do I go if I sell? Everything is so expensive. How do I buy? If I sell this one, what do I do?
And if they're, yes, you're right. So, and if they're downsizing, then they're in this issue where, like, yes, I mean, I would probably just say in a general sense, I'd say yes, like, you'll have enough money. It is funny because that's a common refrain from older people, and I've heard it from like my friends with like their family, like their relatives. They're like, oh, where would I go? And it's like, you're gonna sell your home for $2 million. Now, I'll never be able to afford a condo. Condos are so expensive. You're like, do you know how expensive your home is? No, right? You're like, my home is worth my home is 500,000. I paid 40,000. Last time I looked at it, it was worth 500,000. You're like, 2 million now. So you're like, but a condo costs 800. You're like, yes, and yours is worth 2 million. Don't worry about it. Like, so part of it is just educating. So here we go. This is great, and this is what we've spoken about. So real estate time, right? It's service, not sales, right? If you're coming at it from this contribution, if you're trying to fulfill a need and do something that they're after, you're not selling. And if you're not selling, you can be more aggressive. You can be more straightforward about it. That's my take on it. So you see misunderstanding. So more education to clarify reality. Roadblock, providing more services to solve a problem, right? So this one here, clarify reality. So sometimes this is the case that we just need to be able to explain to people they have a belief that's wrong, that they think they can get X amount for their house, or they think that they could buy in this area. They have different perceptions. One thing that is a constant thing that I've seen in my work with clients is people make assumptions that something that is a negative for them is a negative for everybody. And by that, the example I'll give is I've had clients who are like, they're like, I'm going to sell my house in Toronto and I'm going to buy somewhere outside of Toronto, which isn't great because I still work in Toronto. My friends are here, but I'll be able to buy a nicer home, or I'll get more bang for my buck. And then they look in a place and they're like, Aurora seems nice. And I'm like, people in Aurora don't complain about the fact that they're far away from Toronto. People in Aurora like living in Aurora. So often there's a perception that just because it's going to be a downside for you, you're like, I should get a better deal because now I'm living in Aurora. And you're like, no, people want to live in Aurora. The fact that for you, it's further away from your family and your work, maybe Aurora isn't the right choice for you. But there is this assumption that what matters to me will influence price. And that's not always the case, right? When people say, you're like, oh, I pay less for that place because it's got a pool and I don't want a pool. And I'm like, okay, but but that doesn't mean it doesn't have value to someone else just because it's of no value to you. So it is, like education can clarify that for people. And certainly a big part of what we need to do is educate buyers and sellers. And the roadblocks, so if there is a problem, can you provide more services to solve that problem, right? So we see this in, like that question of like, so it's like, I don't want to have to repair my home, or I want to sell it as is. And sometimes there's work that needs to be done, services that need to be done around coordinating repairs and so forth, that they're not willing to do the work, but that's more because they don't know what to do, right? There are a number of very successful agents who have done well with doing work for, like, coordinating work, not becoming contractors themselves, but coordinating work. I do know some agents who are kind of contractors, but they're like, I don't know how to do this. I know that this floor is terrible, but I don't know who to call and I don't know what to do, and it just seems overwhelming, so I'd rather not. Seller clients love being told you don't need to worry about that, because that's what they want to hear, right? Like if someone says, I guess we should probably do some work, and if I look around and I go, no, you don't need to do anything. They're like, really? Huh, great. They're quite happy, right? So
More for the money.
yes, right. Yeah. So, but if you can provide more services to solve a problem, because you can say it's not my problem, figure it out, but then that is a roadblock where they're like, and then you're like, you said, call me when you're ready to list. You say, I'm going to use you, Jeff. Great. Call me when you're ready to list. And a month passes. I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, we had a contractor, but then he's too big. Like, next thing you know, it's like 6 months. Like, so sometimes you do need to provide more services to solve the problem. There's a nice quote. Successful people shift always, continuously, relentlessly. High achievers are always changing, altering, and adjusting. I do think that's part of it. If you can think of any conversations you've had with people where they're adhering to the same opinion, or saying they want to do the same thing even though things have changed. You're like, what do you like? The world has moved on. Like, so what are we talking about here? So I do think real estate doesn't move as quick as like the financial markets, but it does move, right? And we see this in terms of like, I wouldn't say daily, but on certainly a weekly basis, like you will see changes that happen in given markets, right? So that's, our tackle Tuesday meetings that we have, we'll talk about this, where people were like, like everything is super busy, and then all of a sudden everything is super quiet. Like, there are changes that happen, and we do need to shift with the times, because if we give advice that's poor, it'll be negative for our clients. We could get sued. There's going to be negative repercussions. Reset expectations. Going here. So get right to your action shift. So in this market, you need to energize sellers, pricing strategies, and staging, energize buyers, create urgency, and set up lending options, and then bulletproof the transaction. So that's making sure the financing happens and also complete the transaction. Let's get into this. So this is great. This is something that I remember at a family reunion a couple of years ago, Gary Keller talked about. So in a seller's market, most of your time is spent servicing leads. People call you. Like it's not hard to get people who want to sell. Like, people are like, my neighbor just sold for more money than I thought we would ever make. Can we sell? Like, I want to sell. My neighbor did this, my neighbor did that. So you don't actually have to do the work in order to get the leads. They're just sort of dropping in your lap. People are calling you saying, come sell my house. In a buyer's market, you need to spend your time on generating leads, right? So we are in Toronto. Technically, we're in a buyer's market. Toronto is almost always in a seller's market, but technically right now we're in a buyer's market. There's 3 ways that we can identify the market that we're in. One of them is the months of inventory, right? So that's how long all of the current inventory would take to sell if no other inventory came on the market. Somewhere between 3 to 4 months of inventory is considered a balanced market. Toronto has typically been 1 month or under. In the hottest times, it's like 2 weeks. That means like if no new properties came on the market, everything would be sold within 2 weeks. So we're at, I think, like 3.4, the stats, but we're somewhere around there for the latest months of inventory. The other is the sale to new listing ratio, which is like the absorption rate. So how much of the listings that are being sold are new ones versus existing? 50% is balanced. So at 100%, what that means is all of the sales, the number of sales is equal to the number of new listings that came on the market, right? So there's been like zero change. So we're currently, we're at like below 40%, which is almost unheard of. That's a buyer's market in Toronto. And then the last one is active listings, the number of active listings. And we've dipped down a little bit in the most recent month, but Toronto has seen the number of active listings rise steadily over the last number of months. So it is a buyer's market, which means generating leads becomes more important and motivating them. Actually, I think it's the next thing we get to here. So yeah, these are the stats. This is from the National Association of Realtors. They're not quite relevant for Toronto, so you guys, have you seen this little chart? So pricing in a rising market. Okay, so the average price is going up. So there's the price the sellers want, and then when they get it, right? So if prices are going up, and you're like, I want an extra 100,000, and you're like, that's not what it's worth, and you're like, in theory, at a certain point, it will be worth that, right? So real estate within the GTA, real estate has gone up on average, 7% per year for over the last 45 years per year. On average, there's been a few times when it's gone down. Most recent, 2018, the average price went down, but in 2023 we'll see it. But on average, it's gone up by 7%. So when someone says, "I want more, I want this price," you're like, if you wait long enough, you'll get it. Like that, like real estate does appreciate over time, and you just need to look at forgetting individual blips. Maybe like 1, 2, 3, and 4 years in the late 1980s, there was a period where it was the average prices were going down for 4 years in a row. But over time, real estate rises, and we know that from looking at the stats, but also just from everybody's story about my grandfather bought this house for 52,000, and now we sold it for $2 million. You're like,
That's a lot of money, 52,000.
Yeah,
Grandfather to buy.
yes, I know. Here, 6,000. There you go. Make you feel better. So pricing in a rising market. So like people, there's no urgency, right? We're not in a rising market. As I've said, Toronto average price has been dropping for the last 3 months. Pricing chasing the market, right? So this is a very common thing, and this is where if you're trying to convince a seller to price properly and not to waste their time, you see this. You can just look up on a given street or look up on, like you can find examples without a problem. They wanted this much, they didn't get it, then they lowered the price. This is all its home value. They're chasing the market down, right? I had clients who were looking out in Oakville. We saw a property, nice but not quite the right fit. More than a year later, it sold for $1.2 million less than what they'd listed at originally.
1.2 less?
Less. It was listed at 3 and they sold it for 1.8. And they did this. They just, the market for this luxury sort of was going down. They overpriced
The clients buy it?
No.
Shoot.
No, I mean, they would have
What
been
a deal.
Well, no, yeah. But at the end of the year, they would have been a deal. So it just kept going down and down and down. So this definitely happens. You also see, this is how real estate agents get fired. So I sold a house last year on Lewis Avenue, which is just around the corner. I sold 2 of them actually. And the second one that I sold, the day we knew that this other house was coming on the market, the day after we listed, they came on the market, $100,000 more than us, even though it was arguably similar home. We had an offer date. They had an offer date the day after. On our offer date, we got 1 offer, but we sold it for a good price, 1.4. They did this, falling. After 3 months, they fired their agent and they hired another agent. And so their home, they originally wanted $100,000 more, and they sold for $300,000 less than what we got because they did this because the market was tumbling and they were following it down. So it is very much a real thing that happens. So yes, this is so fair market value is at this level. They list too high. So the market interest, which starts initially high, this is a Doug Workman thing. He says, whenever you list a property, we're talking Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there are a glut of people who are waiting to see your home the first time, right? So there are a bunch of people like, oh, a new house on the market, new, interesting, right? So you see this, the market interest goes up high, and then it doesn't sell. And as time passes, the interest starts to drop. And then the fair market value starts going as they're saying, okay, we were too high. Let's drop down. Let's drop down. Let's drop down. Let's drop down. Keep going. The saleable price is people start to think there's something wrong with it. It's stale, right? People have been like, well, that one's been on the market for 6 months. Anybody who looks will be like, nobody wants this house. Nobody wants something that nobody wants, right? Like that's like, this is, you're not appealing, right? So go. And then they sell, right? At a terrible price, right? This is because they've overpriced in this shifting market. And that there's tons of examples of that. We're seeing that right now. Price forecasting. We're price right and serious about selling. So this is a challenging thing, but like how to price ahead of the market, right? I had this listing. So this is, I'll take this on to say this listing that I had was in Georgetown, and we originally listed at 1.729. And it was because there were listings, similar listings. We were better in some ways, similar listings, not sold, listings for 1.75, like more. And I was like, this is great. People come and they're looking in our neighborhood. They're gonna look at this home and this home, which are more expensive than us, that are coming to us. We're cheaper and we're better in some ways. Good job, Jeff. Great strategy. Sold last week for 1.5. So $229,000 less than what we originally listed for. Because the problem was the Georgetown market shifted. And those homes, they didn't sell either. But that's of small comfort. I mean, it's some comfort when you say to a seller, it's not you, it's the market. But also, it's not much comfort, right? So the fact that these homes didn't sell, and we were also not selling. We did some price reductions. We did not too dissimilar from this before. We did a more significant price drop, and then we generated, I'd say this just happened recently, so like a market interest. But a better approach in retrospect would have been to quicker, and this is a hard conversation to have with sellers, is to be like, it doesn't matter if we're a good deal compared to other homes that are not selling. It matters what we are compared to homes that have sold, and we need to get out there, right? So we need to do a significant price drop now. That's how we get sold right away. Could we have sold for more than 1.5 this summer? Probably, if I'm honest, probably. We probably could have got a little bit more than that, but the market kept shifting. So it's a good price now, but I would have been, these clients weren't in a rush, but with hindsight, I should have pushed them more, because at a certain point, I was like, like what their end result was. They still did fine. They bought for 1.1 3 years ago. They still made 400,000, but they could have made more. But it's also a year ago, they could have sold for 1.7 easily. Like there's a comparable on this week. Like, so we have to.
It sounds like we're in the market where your first offer is the best offer.
This was our first offer was 1.45. We had another offer, so no. But
I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
Because the market's going down.
I think
Because I've been seeing what you're just talking. I see that a lot daily in my work.
Mhm.
Condos especially, they're just dropping.
Yeah. Oh no, it's very, very common. And this is the thing, you need to understand like what's coming next and try and be able to predict it. But we're having a lot of conversations that like, if you don't need to sell right now, is now a good time to sell? The answer that most agents say is no. If you don't have to sell right now, wait a little bit. If you have to sell, then okay, off we go. But we need to be realistic about the price expectation.
Someone's asking you that question, and you say you want to sell, so you got to go knock on the door.
So we have master pricing. So comparables, location, size, amenities, and condition, right? So this is factor when it's sold or when pending, right? So this is an important thing, particularly in a shifting market. If you say, well, this house up the street sold for this much 2 months ago, and you're like, yeah, but the average price has dropped every month, the last 2 months. So it's no longer relevant. Like you need to factor that in because buyer agents absolutely will, right? When you say, oh, this one sold, and you're like, this is a great comparable from us because it's a good price and we think it's a comparable property. And then they're like, what about this one that sold yesterday? And you're like, we don't like that one. Why not? It sold for too low, right? That's not helpful. And 555 CMA, so 5 sold comps, 5 under contract comps. This is more, yeah, that's like listed on like I think that means sold conditional.
What does that mean? Explain.
So
to me
it's sold
again.
conditional. The
It's an American
it's
term.
American term. Yeah.
Under contract.
Yeah.
Oh, under contract. No, I'm not. Explain to me the whole thing. 555 CMA with this?
So CMA is a comparable market analysis, like a valuation,
Yes,
right?
that I know.
So they're saying I'm not gonna agree with this because it is the American one, but it's 5 sold comparables. 5, this is sold conditional, which would be hard to find. You, again, how they publicize things is different in the States, and then 5 active comparables.
Yeah.
I think the sold comparables are what you need to rely on, and then you do a gut check against actives. If you say this one sold for this and this one sold for this, and this is where we are, and then you say, if we listed at that, how would we look against like this? Because people like 2 points make a line. And so if you say this neighbor sold for this price and this neighbor sold for this price, which is very similar, and we're close to those because we're a very comparable home, and when we look at the comparables that are out there, we're a better price than them. That's like people are like, great, this is a good deal. This makes sense. This pricing makes sense. At the end of the day, that's all that buyers want is they want a story that makes it feel comfortable.
And it makes sense to use under contract.
Like, so, I mean, so we don't see this. So effectively, a sold conditional, we don't see the sale price, right? So, I would, until it's sold, we don't know.
Oh, no.
That's what they mean by under contract.
No. It's when they see the sold price, but hasn't closed yet.
Well, then it's sold. It's different when it's the
No, it's
closing
only
date.
sold, it's sold when it closes,
And
but whatever.
yeah, I would just, as I say, focus on what has sold, right?
What
And
sense.
then adjust for time. And then compare it against, you say, okay, good. This one sold for that price, because that's what people will look at. Like, give me a comparable. Ideally, give me the same property, the identical property next door that sold yesterday. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Or the same condo, floor below
Yeah,
and floor above.
most recent.
And then they'll look at, and what are other people asking? So you're like, okay, this is a good deal based on what someone paid, and this is a good deal based on what people are asking. Then you get buyers who are like, here we go, here's an offer, and it's reasonable. I don't have my notes up here. I'm not sure why we're going into 5 stages of grief. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. So, I mean, I guess you could say this is the same when you're trying to convince buyers or sellers of bad news. And they're like, that's not true. And then they're like, this is bullshit. Pardon my language. Right? And then they're like, what if, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, oh, this is terrible. And then they're like, fine. I haven't seen people go through it in like one meeting, but I have had I think our place is worth more. And then they're mad. They're like, this is garbage, and I don't this market and Trudeau, right? So all right, so here's some stats. I always question these stats. These are the American, right? But staging helps sell homes 3 to 30 times faster than non-stage competition. 75% of sellers saw an ROI of 5 to 15% over asking price. So I'm a stats guy. I'm like, I don't know where you got these numbers from, and you had a glimpse. You could look into the alternate universe where this is 2 homes that were identical and one was staged and one wasn't. So they look at all sorts of stats. I do think I wouldn't rely on these specific stats, but does presenting a home in its best light make sense? Of course, people want to live in a place that is appealing, and will it turn into a higher sale price? I think so, but I wouldn't particularly. If you said these stats to me, I'd be like, tell me more about it, and you'd be like, I can't. Right? So to your point about the guy who knocked on the door, and you're like, where did this come from? It's like I don't. But anyway, staging is helpful, but yeah, I'll just give you one quick piece of advice on the staging. So sometimes people say, you're getting paid a lot, you should pay for staging. Say, okay, the staging cost can be considerable. When I say considerable, as we know, like it could be $3,000, $5,000, $8,000. Like you can pay a lot of money for staging, and if you're on the market longer, you have to keep paying that money because it's about typically the most common agreement that stagers have is half month, right? So you rent it for a month. If it sells in 2 days and they come take it in 2 days, you paid a month. But if at the end of a month you still want the staging, if you paid $5,000, they're like, we will leave it there for another 2,500. Every month they charge you again, so it's not just till it's sold. So it can be quite expensive, and the value to you as a real estate agent. So say 5 to 15% over asking price. Again, I don't believe that to be true necessarily, but let's go with it. Let's just use the 10%, right? So you say, okay, I got $1 million property. It's going to sell for an extra 100,000. An extra 100,000 makes you an extra $2,500 if you're at the 2.5%. So congratulations, you made an extra $2,500. But if you spent $7,000 on the staging, even though it sold more, your clients made an extra 95,000 after the 5% commission. They made 95,000, and you lost money. So just be really clear that like paying for staging can get quite expensive. Most of the value goes to the seller, right? Because they're the one who gets 95% of the value.
Do you do staging? Do you pay for it?
I have more recently. I paid for it 5 times in my career. Otherwise, I say tell my clients to pay for it. If you
Yeah,
just
I
tell
was
them
gonna ask that because I hear different things that some agents pay for it. They say, oh, that's part of my package.
And again,
And
if you're
some will charge you, well, if you do the main floor, it's $10,000. If you do the main floor and bedrooms, it's $15,000 to the cost of the seller. Right? I don't know if that agent and his team still do that.
you can, I mean, some people like will charge, there's the premium version at 6% as opposed to 5%, blah, blah, blah. I will say that it all depends on what your value proposition is. So I have a clear bias against like saying like paying for the staging. I don't see most of the value in that. The seller sees most of the value. If you consider it as part of your marketing or advertising, that's why some agents say that they're going to do it. But if you're in competition, often there's not a choice. Like you say, is this the only thing preventing me from getting the listing? Yes. Okay. Well, then I will take that on the nose because I want this listing. So, but I would say don't start with it necessarily. You say, yes, I think staging has some value. That's a cost you need to, we'll get you quotes and we're happy to pay for a staging consult, but it's on you. And the way that I've dealt with my clients is mostly it works.
I think those people, the agents offer the staging, it's their own furniture,
Yeah.
it's their own truck, and a bunch of workers they pay $15 for.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, and so like Carol Foderick, her team, they have a staging team there. Laura Inward, the Barrett Inward group, they have like, so it is something, it's a valid approach. I'm just saying, my personal preference is to go from my value proposition is not that I pay for staging. You can hire stagers.
Tell the people, clean up your house.
We're pretty much out of time here, guys. I'm sorry. Staging formula planning. All right. With the time, yeah. I'm sorry, guys. We are out of time here.
Okay.
Bye, Christine. Everybody who's stuck here for 3 hours, thank you. You're like, no, we do it in 2 hours, and then you're like, but you didn't count on Jeff talking a lot. So I hope this was. Well, I hope this was a value to you guys as well as to people on the call. There's great stuff here. So we'll make sure that this gets posted and sent out so that you guys can keep reading through it. But I think the key takeaways has to be you need to think and learn in a shift to make sure that you're not giving outdated advice, right? You've got the current information. You've got ways to actually help get your clients out of their own way, because sometimes people do get in their own way. They get focused on what they wish would be rather than what the reality is. And as agents, we can do the same thing and we can enable that. Oh, you're right. This home is beautiful and it'll absolutely sell for that price. And then 3 months later, they're like, you're fired, right? Like it's a challenging time. You can't just agree with people all the time. You need to make sure that it's based on the current reality. Thank you, everybody online. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I still have a question, Jeff. Jeff, I have a question for you. Sorry.
No more questions.
I joined late, so thank you so much. I don't know what you spoke for sure about numbers at the beginning, but my question to you, have you heard of this share buyers? Like there's a company everybody's asking me about. It's called Orbero, and it's promoted like very strongly. So people, they tell you like they will invest 250,000 up to 250,000, and they will be investors with you. Have you heard of it? Lots of people are asking me about, and I say, yeah. I only advise people to team up if they know each other. I don't know anything about the company's reputation. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I have heard of it. I mean, it's just an alternate. I mean, I think they're real estate brokerage as well, because most of them do, because they try and see some of the commissions. But it is it's just an alternate financing model. So there's a nonprofit called Options for Homes that has done something like that, where they basically put some money in, and then at the time of the sale, they get a percentage of the gain. So if they contributed 10% at the time of the sale, they take 10% of the increase.
Are you
So-
advising like young buyers to do it, or you're just staying out of it?
No, I'm staying out of it. I mean, they're like, if you say you're advising, I think what that means is they go with that brokerage, like they're
Exactly. So asking me about it is not really gonna benefit.
I would say no. That's you say, and they come and go as well, Mason. Like
Yeah,
these businesses, like they're like we're gonna revolutionize how things are going, and then like 2 months later, they're like we're exiting the Canadian marketplace. So.
Yeah, but lately we're lots of people are teaming up together. So we're doing this. I don't know if everybody working with buyers, they're seeing this, like mother's daughter, two brothers, friends, and this is the only way I'm seeing like young buyers buying. So just from the buyers section. Sellers, yeah, you did cover it for the sellers now. Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. It's always really good. I always look forward for your sessions. We'll be using your website a little bit to read through. Amazing information. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. Thanks so much, guys.
Jeff, thank you. You make time fly.
Thank you. Oh, good.
I can't believe it's 2:00.
Thank you, Jeff, as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ash.
Bye.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good. You're welcome. All right.